The Team Never Quit podcast is brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. Join us in recognizing the bravery and dedication of our military members this May for Military Appreciation Month. At Navy Federal, we proudly support those who serve with us. Go check out NavyFederal.org for all the exclusive offers. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another episode of the Team Never Quit podcast. As always, thank you guys for listening and watching, and please hit that like and subscribe button wherever you get your show. Way to go.
That's Team Never Quit right there.
That's the kid who works for me. I'm sorry.
No, you're good.
And go.
Well, today before we get to our special guest and very good friend, let's kick it off with our weekly Patreon question. And this week we have, what is your favorite cartoon character? Not superhero, cartoon. Now I'll kick it off too. My absolute favorite cartoon character is gonna be Randy from South Park.
Of course it is. I hated when you watched that.
That is the absolute funniest character on this planet. Not even close.
I could not stand South Park, and I
Because
could not
you don't get
stand
humor.
watching it. I don't get that kind of humor, I guess. Well, as a mom too, I didn't want my kid watching it, and you would always sneak it and watch it.
Everybody was.
Yeah.
What do you got?
Cartoon character? Wow. You know, I was sitting here thinking about it. Obviously, South Park.
Not a superhero though.
Yeah, I get it,
So
I
that
get it.
shifted gears a little bit. You know, I had to completely switch over to.
I know you're gonna think Spider-Man.
Well, yeah, everyone knows that, but it's a great question. And the first thing that popped into my head, I'm ready. You go ahead first.
Mine's gonna be probably cheesy right now because I don't watch that. We don't even have cable anymore. But so all like when the TV's on, it's all kid stuff. I have to say, if there's a cartoon that like I can stand with my kids in the background, it's that dang Bluey show. I
haven't
love that
seen
shit.
that yet.
It's great.
What is it?
It's called Bluey. It's like an Australian cartoon, but it's like the dad, the mom. I mean, it's just, to me, it's super clean. There's no agenda to it that I've seen. It's just like family life, two young kids. It's like the dogs. They're like Australian healers or something, like blue healers. Mm-hmm. But like it's hysterical. Like I find myself like walking through it and like I'm watching it in the background, like I'm trying to do work, and then I'm like watching this show and laughing. So I feel like that if I was going to look at a cartoon right now, that's what it would be.
I don't know what that is.
You got to watch. I mean, boy, your kids are older.
I've heard
So I
about
don't think
it.
they would really be watching it.
I've been seeing it on Instagram, like references to Bluey, but I
Yeah.
haven't watched it.
Dude, what was yours?
Randy,
was
South Park.
Yeah. I'm about to go with Homer Simpson.
That's a classic.
You know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah.
Like even if it's on TV, I can.
Mm-hmm.
The Simpsons were like a cartoon that we watched growing up. I remember that.
I was thinking the same thing, maybe a Simpson character, because I loved The
That'd be
Simpsons.
great.
And I can still, to this day, sit and watch The Simpsons.
We're laying
Yeah.
around sometimes looking for something to watch on television, and if it's not. We watch a lot of Golden Girls now.
Yeah.
I love
Have you
Golden
reached
Girls.
that point?
I used to watch that as a kid during the summertime. That summertime TV. I had 4 channels growing up.
Okay, so I didn't watch that growing up.
Yeah.
I didn't have that. No. I
And
watch it
Mama's
now.
Family.
I watch it now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Loved those shows. So I think mine, if it's not a Simpson, a Looney Tunes. I can watch Looney
That's
Tunes.
a different demographic, man.
Yeah.
But like old school Looney
Yeah,
Tunes.
yeah.
Because
I
the
love
music
those.
in there, that was an experience. Looney Tunes.
Yeah.
I feel like that was an experience.
So I don't have an actual character, but I loved watching.
Everyone
Looney
knows that
Tunes.
opening credit when that thing winds up. What that
Oh
is,
yeah,
and that
that
melody.
sound.
They did have a pretty good opening.
They got a
credits.
great one.
Yeah, they really.
I mean, don't
did.
they still make Simpsons? I mean,
Yeah, they're still around.
I mean, it's
Still
like
going.
It's like they're making like news. Are they? I don't know. I feel like that's like the longest running.
Yeah,
cartoon.
There's
Still
a funny
predicting
thing
the
about them because
future.
of like the history that the Simpsons have foretold.
Yeah.
Stuff like that. Have you seen that? There's all kinds of stuff with it, man. Yeah, they're great.
Man,
That's
I
a
don't
good question,
think
man.
That was
Yeah.
good. That was
a good
good.
question.
Patreon question.
Mm-hmm.
All right, man. Thanks for coming back in.
Thank you guys for having me.
You're welcome. We've been through a lot. You've been through a lot. Let's remind everybody, let's back it up just a little bit. Tell everybody your name.
Aaron Kendle.
That's right. Where'd you come from?
I'm from Virginia initially, but I just drove in from San
I've been
Antonio.
wanting to change this around like more of an interrogation platform.
Just like you have 3 seconds, fire it off.
Like shorten up the table
Yeah.
and just put one light. It's like one bright light
Yeah,
right
like
freaking
that
there,
swings that
and
you
where the shadow literally goes to the end of the table.
Yeah. Hey, I like that.
it's
Just
just
put Hunter behind that one-way glass.
Yeah.
Move that glass
That
forward.
megaphone mounted where it comes through, where it changes his voice.
Like, what is it? True Lies.
True Lies, man.
Yeah. When he's
I mean, we already got the window.
That's what I'm saying. You could really do
put him in
something.
here with a stool and that freaking light.
Yeah, like don't even warn him. Just have him walk him in here, and then just shut the door behind him and go behind the.
We should do an entire season like that.
So Aaron Kendle from Virginia originally. You have been here before. It was with different hosts.
Yeah, back when Morgan was.
Yes, and so
Congressman
Luttrell. Excuse me.
Congressman Luttrell.
Apologies, sir.
He loves that, man. You know, which he earned it. I feel like if you're a doctor, if you earn that title and someone doesn't appropriately call you that, or in the same way with the judges.
Yeah.
Like, there's some stuff down here, and Congressman's one of them.
Now, is that the title? Like you have to say like Congressman Luttrell if you like? Is that the proper thing, like doctor?
I say it. Yeah, it is.
Or is it just like, is it like an honorable or something like that? Like,
I think
Oh, there's an honorable in front of it. But he hadn't dropped that on me yet. I don't know if I'm going to call him
No,
that.
I think that's only
we need to
in
look that
writing.
up.
Like if you're writing an invitation or something, I think
He's got an official letterhead. It says honorable.
yeah. Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Has he dropped that on anybody yet, I wonder?
Not for now. I don't know.
He's probably waiting for that.
Not with
You
us.
know he's waiting for that. Like,
Yeah.
we'll be somewhere and I'll say something. He's like, put an honorable in front of that.
I
Oh
bet
my
you he wouldn't do
gosh.
it if we're around.
Yes, he will.
You think so?
Oh, yeah.
I think he knows he'd catch a little bit of flack over that.
Yeah,
Just-
but it depends on the delivery, man. Like,
Yeah,
if it's
yeah,
in
yeah.
there good, dude, you
Oh
know
my
how he
gosh.
is.
Okay, well, since you've been here before, we want to refresh everyone's memory of you getting into the teams. Marcus loves talking about buds.
Mm-hmm.
So, what was it that made you want to become a Navy SEAL? What year is this that you're going in?
I graduated high school in 2002, and I probably started thinking about it later, like before I graduated.
So what was it like going through 9/11 in high school?
Yeah, I mean, gosh, it's kind of hard to think of that mindset, but that was what kind of shifted my path. I thought I'd go to college first and then maybe join. I have a long history of family that served, but man, I do remember that. It was second period. I just walked into history class, and they'd redone some of the rooms, all the classrooms had these TVs in there, and everybody was staring up, looking at the TV, and you're just watching it. And then of course, the Pentagon also got hit, and that's for us was our backyard.
Did you already have being a Navy SEAL on the brain by then?
I don't know if I had the SEAL quite yet. I was starting to read books after that. I met a SEAL who worked.
Because what'd you do in high school?
I swam and I don't know.
Do what SEALs do, probably.
Didn't study.
That's what most SEAls
exactly.
do. Man.
I just
figure out a backstory on all of us, like asking those questions, like, hey, what kind of kid were you, right? And all of us kind of the same.
Well, I think the problem was like
but different.
I just didn't fit well in a classroom like that, learning about stuff I didn't find. Obviously, it's important now. I've gone back to school since then, and I thought of but at the time, I was just I was an athlete. I swam. I wanted to be like active. I probably had ADHD or whatever else. I needed other outlets than sitting in a classroom from 8 a.m. until 3 p.m.
It's got to be where that stuff came from. It's like if you're trying to put kids in a classroom and learn that stuff without letting them put their hands on it and do it, especially at that age, then it drives them crazy, right? So sports had to come from somewhere.
Totally. And obviously I have 2 girls now. They don't have the same interest that I did as a kid. But growing up, I had my mom's dad, my grandfather. He was an old World War II vet, fought up through Italy in a mortar battalion. And I remember as a kid, like he had all these black and white photos, and we'd go over there, and he not only did he tell stories, but like almost like emotionless. Like he would look at pictures, and he could be like, "Oh yeah, that guy, he got shot right next to me, and this, that, and the other." But and there was like, as a kid, you just like you watch these movies, you're like, "This is awesome!" Like you're doing mortars up through there. You're around tanks. There's pictures with tanks in there. So like you had this picture in your head of like what. Being like every kid wants to be an army man, with the figures and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then he also used to go have coffee in the morning, at least once a week with this group of people there in California. And all these guys came. He didn't know them before the war. They all met after the war just because they all lived in that area. But they would all meet up every morning and like drink coffee, have a donut, and tell these stories. There was like a guy that was in a in a bomber, and other guys have fought up.
That's got to be where all the clubs came from, like the Lions Club, the VFW.
Yeah,
It came from them, right? From those guys.
I'd have to look that up.
Getting around, shooting the shit. Yeah.
Yeah.
Right?
I mean, it's
like when you
fun.
go into your town, if you find one of those, the VFW. I remember thinking this when I was in. I remember when you're in active duty. I remember when the reservist guys would show up. You're like, hide your shit. Remember that? And they're like, our guys are reservists now, and then we're out and we're old, and you see like there's a complete mentality.
Yeah.
Complete mentality. It changes when you dynamically go into different job sets, man.
Yeah.
For sure. Yeah,
But I still love going like the VFW. I still love talking to those older guys, man. It's just there's something different about it. They have that same mindset.
Man.
But
Don't let it fly in there. You think it stays in Vegas?
Yeah.
Whatever happens in VFW, man.
Yeah. I could listen to those guys. I could listen to that generation. I watch all those things. There's a new like Tom Hanks.
Masters of the Air.
Yeah, I have not finished that yet, man. But wow,
we started it too. Whatever the way they filmed that.
Yeah,
I really enjoy watching it that way. It's almost like the film itself is telling you part of the narrative, right?
Yeah,
it's kind of telling you something.
I watch Band of Brothers at least once a year. You know what I mean?
You have to watch it at least.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, we'll put that out right now, man.
Yeah.
Memorial Day, Veterans Day.
Like, sorry, Mindy, don't bother me right now. I'm watching.
Rainy days. It comes after Lonesome Dove. It goes in there with that.
Yeah, it's
and there's three of those now: the Pacific and now Masters of the Air.
So your grandpa really put it in you.
I think as a young kid I had that, and then going through high school, you're focused on trying to just make it through high school, and then 9/11 happened, like we talked about, and that was sort of my thing of like, okay, there's a job to do here. And
did your attitude change after 9/11? Do you remember that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, I think I became serious about it then. I still probably thought I might go to college, but my grades are mediocre, and I stayed at home.
They were back then.
They were back then, yes.
Right. That's important, man, because now that we're older and all the guys are going back into school, just to hear the way they talk, for whatever reason, I talked to some guys, and I remember this too, man. Some of the guys, you put them in a class, they won't learn it. I don't know what happens. It's like the shield comes up, like with math and all that science and like history, they can understand that, but that other stuff, there's some kind of block. But when you get out of the military, and I don't know if it's a discipline or the manners or whatever happens, you go back around, all those guys and girls just freaking knock it out of the park.
I can't remember if I mentioned it last time, but I think that was like one of the things I'd always talked about going back to school once I was in, but like that was like one of my biggest fears. It's like, send me overseas, send me anywhere, but don't put me, I don't want to go back and
send me to class.
Don't put me in English 101 with like kids that are 20. And I'm like that frightened me, like, I'm like, these kids are gonna be smarter than me.
What was that like?
Well, I didn't go back to school until, before I got out. This would have been like 2014, 2013.
Yeah, we'll get there. Let's go back to Buds. Like you getting into you deciding you wanted to be a Navy SEAL.
Yeah, once I made that decision, I was still at home, and I went to enlist, but there were a lot of kids enlisting then, and I knew back then, remember, you had to choose one of 13 jobs to be a SEAL, because SEAL wasn't its own rating back then, so...
No, it wasn't. That's right. It was different.
A qualification. So it was like, what do you want to be? And I'm looking at these 13 jobs, and
that's how many we have in the Navy.
No, that's how many there were. They called them SEAL source rates.
Right. That's how many jobs are in the Navy that are rated for that you can go into the SEAL teams with. Used to be.
Yeah, but I think like 11 of them have nothing to do with it.
That's right.
Maybe parachute rigger and corpsman were two. I know.
Yeah, corpsman, definitely.
Which obviously that was us. But so I was like, I had the mindset of I was going to make it, but you read all these books about people not making it. So I was like, well, let me choose a job that just in case something I can fall back on and not.
You had that thought?
I did have that thought, because I thought at least if I don't.
I was wondering how many of the guys have that thought. They're
sure,
like, hey, man,
it wasn't a big one, but it was definitely just like,
if I do get stuck out there, what kind of job?
I didn't want to be on a ship, so I said, hey, like corpsman, I can at least go FMF and go with the Marines, and like still go overseas.
That's what I thought too.
So I was like, I chose to be a corpsman.
In the back of my okay, so why'd you pick corpsman?
Well, that I thought.
Isn't there a difference between corpsman and 18 Delta?
Yes, there is. There is.
Yeah, Navy is the corpsman. 18 Delta is
something completely different?
Yeah, it's their medical course, but it's for the Green Berets.
That's what Marcus did.
I did it too.
Delta.
I didn't get through the whole thing.
You did too.
He is too.
Okay.
That's what I'm talking about.
But I also I was naive enough to think like, okay, I lifeguarded growing up. I swam and I worked at a swimming tennis club, groundskeeping and lifeguarding. And so in my head, I'm like, I know.
That's exactly what I did.
I was like, I know CPR. I know mouth to mouth.
Right.
You know, I was like,
how hard could it
medic.
be?
And it actually wasn't that bad. Corps school wasn't that. I don't mean to talk.
You had to go
bad.
to Corps school?
Yeah.
They actually sent you to Navy Corps school?
Yeah, I joined.
Okay,
yeah,
so
yeah.
I didn't have to do that.
Okay, so you volunteered after. See, I signed. I went in as an HM. You know, HN Kendle. You know, well, I went to boot camp, then went right across the street in Great Lakes.
I didn't have to do that.
Corps school's in San Antonio now. I just had a buddy's kid just graduate.
And 18 Delta used to be in San Antonio.
Well, 18 Delta still is, but now the Navy has their own, the SOCM course that they do.
Here's the funny thing. When I signed up for that, I had heard it was in San Antonio in Texas. That was a big selling point to me.
Yeah.
I was like, right out of buzz, you think you're not a SEAL yet, but you're almost one.
Yeah.
And then you get sent back to Texas. How great would that have been, right? It had just moved to North Carolina. I was the second or third class in there or something.
Yeah.
In Vietnam.
Yeah.
Oh.
Vietnam.
But
yeah, we did our time.
I had more fun in there with all those Green Berets, getting to know them, those buddies. I still got them, a lot of them, and that was a lot of fun. Okay, so when did you get the buds?
I went to buds in 04, boot camp in October 03, Corps school January of 04.
You went in October.
October 03.
Okay, so Morgan went in November. I'm just curious, as you guys, now that you look back, when you go in right before a holiday.
Well, I was lucky because we got out right before Christmas, but if you were the very next class that started behind us, they kept you there over Christmas break. At boot camp, like writing letters and shining shoes and stuff.
When it was time for Morgan to go in, he was so excited to go into the Navy. Look at him now. I'd love to talk about this now. I haven't really run this past.
Well, shit, I was too.
I was too. I get it. I need to go right now.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting there. I was like, hey, bro, before the holidays, you don't want, because you don't do anything. He's like, no, I got to go in.
Yeah.
I think he went in November, right before Thanksgiving.
So he would have sent
full benefit.
Oh, yeah.
Mojo got full benefit his entire career, man. But and he called me from there. He's like, man, we're not doing anything up here.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, it's kind of what I told you. So that's.
He's like, sorry, my calling card's running out.
Yeah, exactly. In that phone booth. God.
Yeah,
dude.
but that was
every guy who goes in before the holidays when this comes up, I always just ask him about it, man. I'm like,
yeah, as I finished up Corps
when do you
school,
think the best time to go into the Navy is?
Oh, gosh. Well, I don't know if summer's any.
It'd be spring, right?
I would have to think so. Winter was cold.
It's brutal.
It was cold.
So make sure you join the Navy and go into boot camp somewhere in March.
In case you don't know, Chicago is cold.
It is.
Great Lakes.
Great Lakes. So if you can time it perfect to get in there, man.
Yeah.
Everyone's in a better mood.
Yeah. But that was also Corps school because I talked to my buddy's kid he was here now, but when I went to Corps school, it was like one of the A schools that you just went to boot camp where you had like no liberty. And then A school, you show up and they had like phase 3 liberty from day one. Like
right.
no,
that's when people wind up getting married.
Didn't have to wear a uniform. There's a lot of things that happened during that.
You
could show up day one and check in. As soon as you're done with school, you could like go hit the bars and go. You could go anywhere. It was great.
Oh my gosh!
I heard they did have a lot of fun in Corps school. I have heard that.
I had a blast too.
How long is that?
I think it was 16 weeks. I ended up.
What'd you come out of there? You make rank out of there?
No. I made rank out of boot camp. I had a recruiter that hooked me up, and
was he SEAL?
No, he was just
a really solid dude.
He was great. I still remember his name, David Calderon. I don't know if he'll listen to this, but because I had to wait. I had to wait a few months before I entered, and so the kids that he recruited during that time, he put them as like my reference.
You got hooked up.
So at boot camp, I found out I was like an E3. I was like, oh, that's awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, so finishing up Corps school, they had that. Remember that was? I don't know if you remember. They had a scruff program or something they called it.
I do remember that.
All those because there were so many schools.
Do they still call it that? I wonder.
I have no idea. Because it's something different. I think they actually got rid of it, to be honest, just in the last few years. But
I absolutely remember it was guys who were waiting to go from boot camp in their A school to actual buds, so they got stationed there to work out with the SEALs that were there.
Yeah, and I'll be honest, they left a bad taste in my mouth personally. Like I felt like those guys who were in that program thought they were SEALs already from us showing up. Like they had.
You're talking about the scruffs.
Yeah.
All of them thought that.
Yeah. And I know there's some good guys out there. I'm just telling you my mindset. Like I remember showing up to like work out one morning, and like one of the guys showed up late and like kicked me out of a line because he's like, "Hey, beat it, new guy." I'm like, "Dude, who are you? What are you?"
Oh my gosh!
You're waiting to go to buds, I'm like, "Come on." So
it's kind of like the second phase guys the way they treat the first phase guys.
Yeah, you're already there. You made it.
Yeah, exactly.
But I just remember, luckily, I had a good crew of guys leaving there, and we went to like the lady, the detailer that gave orders, and we were like, "Look, I don't want to stay here in the scruff program. we want orders to San Diego. We know we're not going to class up, but we'll go check in and work at Bud's Medical. And so that's what we got to do. It was actually awesome. We went and checked in.
That's a great gig.
The class 251 had just started in front of us. They were just like first phase. And so we just get up in the morning and go to Bud's Medical.
Where'd they have y'all staying?
Actually, we were in 618. We were in the nice barracks. I had the best room at 618 looking out over the water.
Did y'all get messed with?
No. No, we didn't.
They're pretty
So
cool,
what
y'all.
buzz class are you?
I was 252.
252. Okay.
A lot easier.
But yeah, they didn't. When we were doing that, the instructors didn't mess with us because I think all the first phase guys were down at, was it 604, 602? I can't remember. 618 was the nice one.
604.
I don't know how
604.
y'all
I don't
remember this
remember.
stuff.
It's either
You remember.
It's either
Oh my
2 or 4,
gosh.
but I mean,
There's some numbers that you freaking remember, and that's some of them.
but I remember, working on guys, all that cellulitis, like
602.
digging in
Yeah.
people's body. I mean, you're just like, dudes were in pain. I felt bad for them, but they get those infections, and you're like popping those things. Dudes are grabbing that table. You're just like, I'm sorry, bro. I'm trying to get you back out there.
Dude, you
Gosh.
just can't imagine what buds in itself is hard enough, but there's stuff that happens to us when we're in buds, like and that flesh-eating bacteria that gets the guys. My swim buddy had that. I'll never forget that. I mean, he got it in Hell Week.
Yeah.
And that thing just kept growing and growing and growing, man.
Yeah, it's no bueno. But yeah, then we classed up. Everybody else showed up there. We classed up in June of 04, and then we graduated buds in like February of 05.
Did you make it through in one shot?
I did. We had
How many did you start with?
210 guys,
That's good.
and then we finished with like 24 originals.
Yeah, right on.
But the class graduated 55 guys.
No, how many originals you have?
24.
That's
I think.
good, man.
Yeah.
That's a small one.
And you look back and you're like, man, you're lucky, man. Just like, we had actually one of the guys who stayed through. I didn't know if he would be. My buddy Zay, I remember he like fell off like the slide for life, like from the top.
Yeah.
And you'd expect him to be like dead or broken back
Oh
or
my
something.
gosh.
And I think he hurt for a week or two, but he just pushed on through, But you're like, dude.
Bro, we didn't have that net stuff that they have now. It was just the
That's
top.
what I'm saying. He fell from the top. There was no
I
net.
saw a guy.
Is there a net now?
There's a net.
There's a net.
Okay.
But I think if you fall into it, they get rid of you.
Huh.
Let's see that we got our way around that. Like,
Yeah.
hey, making this easier. I'm like, no, if you fall and you hit the net, you're done, right? So it's just like dying.
Yeah.
It's actually probably harder.
Yeah.
But we had a guy named Conan. I'll never forget him, and he looked like Conan the Barbarian. And he freaking fell from the top, right off the tower, hit the dirt, sand darted, just boom.
Oh, yeah.
Stood up, kind of. Then all the instructors ran out. I don't forget this. He kind of just shook it off and walked off. And then
Like a cat.
two classes later, man, this other guy fell, same spot. He hit the ground, dude. The next day, he was walking out of the compound with his mother. He was in a full body cast. His arm, his shoulder. He had this whole thing. His hip he had these crutches. It's unbelievable, man. What happens to the guys trying to get through the program?
Oh my
Yeah,
gosh.
skill, determination, and I think some little bit of luck in there too,
What was your first day like when you walked in there?
Like you talking about first day at first phase?
When you freaking walked into Buzz, what was that like?
To check in?
Yeah. What was on your mind? Did you come over the bridge?
I did because I went. My mom was living in Washington State, so I used my residency there. I went there, got a used car. They got me a used car, and I drove all the way down the coast.
You did that whole.
Yeah, it took like 2 days to just drive down the coast, and then I rolled up. Now I had that car in Bud's. It's like old Toyota Highlander. That car was great. It got its money's worth. But I got to drive over the bridge, which was awesome. I mean, that drive still gets me every time.
Every time.
Doesn't matter what I'm doing. Coming over the Coronado Bay Bridge there, looking at Coronado, and just.
I remember the movies about SEALs that we would watch. They have that in there, and then one of the scenes is the guy driving over and he's looking at the bridge. I have that same thought.
Yeah.
Something about it, because there's paradise in there, and then there's hell tucked right in there beside it.
Yeah, I picked up one of my buddies from Corps School in San Diego, and we went and checked in together. So I think that was a little bit better. I didn't walk in on our own, but you went to the quarterdeck and kind of checked. I mean, it wasn't really.
You
anything.
remember that?
I do remember it, but it wasn't there. Like there weren't any SEALs there.
No, it was
on
just
the
dudes.
base. We were just in our dress unit. We changed.
Yeah.
At a rest stop bathroom. We changed into our dress blues.
So we do have so much to talk about. Let's skip ahead and get to like, how did you meet JT? Because that's part of like a big story of like how we all met too.
Yeah. That's the one connection. I was just thinking about that this weekend. We were all together. I was like, obviously, the reason that I know you guys is through JT. I came from the West Coast when I wanted to screen for Dev Group.
So where'd you go out of Buzz?
Team 7.
Hold on.
Yeah, I went to Team 7, did my first platoon. And then I went to sniper school. And at sniper school, I met 2 SEALs. one of which being Colin Thomas, who got killed a few years later. But they came over there, and those two guys were just so cool. I mean, I was just dealing with new guy BS on the West Coast, like from Team 7. And these guys were there, and you're like, oh, man, here's some operators. And they would hang out with us. I mean, they were just like, that made my mind.
I always felt like that too. And then when guys walk in, when different team guys walk into the room, you find out real fast who they are. And there is I don't know what that we call that. I don't know if we have a word for what happens when that is.
They just let their actions and stuff speak for themselves.
Yeah, it's great.
And I was like, and then I started hanging out with them and asking questions, and that's when I was like, all right, I'm gonna screen. So then I did an augment first. I got back and augmented.
So you went asking questions on that for a green team? I mean, to go into
yeah, I got back, and like I said, I that's when I first found out about green team. And then I got back after sniper school. I got back there, and all of a sudden this email.
How'd you do in sniper school?
I did good. I wasn't like the honor man. I think my buddy Kenny, Kenny got the Cold Bore one. I don't remember who the top guy was. But I think I was like,
man, that school was rough.
It was long, and I did that. It was cold too.
I remember walking up in the parking lot of the hotel one day when Morgan was going through sniper school. He went through first, and it was him and Matt Axelson. And they were still in their camis, and we were in downtown. And I mean, they looked beat to death.
Yeah.
And me just being a happy guy, I'm like, oh, dude, it's like being excited about buds. You know what I'm talking about? Until you have to go through it. I was like, dude, how sniper school is it awesome? Becoming a sniper and going in. And he goes, bro, Mojo is. He goes, I wait for them to kick me out every damn day. He goes, because I won't quit. He goes, but it's so miserable that I want them to kick me out.
Yeah.
And I felt that. I was like, no way, until I had to go through it.
It's a dragger.
Whoa.
But yeah, when I got back from finishing that, there was an email that came out saying they needed augments for dev group. Corpsmen, snipers, JTACs.
Was that during the big pull when they pulled all the guys over?
This would have been 2008. Okay. And so I was like, man, I volunteered and got permission and went over there. We deployed in October. But I remember that's the other thing I got. It was with gold. And I showed up there. And again, now you're just like, man, like the 8 of us that came from Team 7 are just like, just being a new guy again,
Feels like that, right?
Walk into that team room and just be like, I'm not saying a dang word.
It feels like that?
Oh, yeah. I mean, they didn't make me feel like that. I'm just saying I feel
like,
I'm not going to go in here
and asking.
Act like I've done anything except one deployment in my belt. You know what I mean?
Well, see, I never made it to 6. I only made it to 5. So
that's a joke for people that don't know this.
I remember going from buds through SQT, and then when you get to the team, there's a way you feel. And when you get your tried, and after one deployment, you feel a certain way as opposed to 2 and stuff like that. And I always remember the guys talking about when they had to go to green teams, like going back to buds again. Yeah. It's like you have that student mentality. It was
a good way to just get knocked knock you down
down to a level there and just
humble you real
your
quick.
Ass. Yep.
But yeah, this wasn't even green. This was just the augment. But I remember meeting the 2 guys I was with. I feel weird mentioning names sometimes, but obviously Matt Mills was he was my team leader for the outstation.
Great dude.
Great dude too. And I remember Matt and the other guy, I was the corpsman going over there, and there was a JTAC with us. And so we met with those 2 guys like after this big meeting, and they were just like, hey, you need anything? You got everything you need? Yeah. Like you could tell they care. I was like, oh shit. Yeah, I do. I think so. And they're like, all right. And then, we flew over there with them, and I had a blast with them, man. We were that was because
they not only, you would hear that they had fun, but then they look like they have fun.
Yeah.
I remember running into them very vividly over there, and the best recruiting tool for a team is to watch them get to do their stuff and how they lived and how they operated.
That's when I started fighting, like doing Millsy was big into like Muay Thai and
everything.
I started fighting with him. Man, he knocked my ass out one night. I mean, Cole, he's a big boy. Again,
he could scrap. That sucker could scrap.
He's a Texas boy there.
He could scrap his ass off. I've seen.
He could fight. He's probably one of the best fighters of all time. Of course, I'm like just learning, and
he cut a
I got 2 on me one night.
Yeah. Dang, man.
I was just telling that story the other night too. But I did the augment, and then I came back, did my 2nd platoon with Team 7, 3rd deployment overall, and I put my package into screen. And when I got back, had some issues, but went to green team screen, and then I got picked up to gold. They do like a draft, and I was lucky enough to get drafted to gold.
Are we allowed to talk about that? What's that like, man? It's like sitting around for they call you?
It's real simple. No, because you're in training. You just come back from like operating, like doing a training thing one night.
Oh, it's like that? Okay, cool.
And they just said like everybody sit on down. They debrief everything, and then they were just like, hey, we got the list. You kind of know it's coming. They're
that's cool, man.
And so
that one exciting? That feels like
man,
an exciting moment.
I mean, I'm not a professional athlete, but apparently they do a draft. The guys.
Hey, let me tell you something about being a SEAL. That's got to be the most exciting damn thing ever.
It was great. The funny part is I don't remember I just remember hearing my name being called one, which was awesome. And I can't remember if they did it by squadron or not. I can't remember, but like I heard my name going to gold, and obviously I'd augmented them. I love those guys over there that I'd met, and then you start hearing the other names, JT, Aaron Vaughn, guys that I just. So that's how we get. I guess we skipped that. But yeah, I met JT coming over to Green Team. He had been in the class in front, but had gotten injured, and so they liked him and they kept him around to go back through with us, the next Green Team class, but. Honestly, I can't remember why we linked up right in the get-go, but from day one, we just kind of were friendly. And then as the class gets smaller and smaller, guys get tighter. Aaron Vaughn was another guy. I know we'll get into some other stuff later, but Aaron Vaughn was one of these guys. He was a CQC instructor from Trade out on the West Coast. I don't know if you remember that, but the CQC instructors, when you're a new guy, the CQC instructors are
I remember that. I absolutely remember
those were the guys you thought they were the best SEALs of all time.
No shit. Especially when you're going through something like that, they all have those quals and you're like,
yeah. God. So I knew, I had gone through training with Aaron Vaughn, and they're hard, CQC, they're on your ass, you're, close quarters.
It's the hardest.
It's the hard, yeah. So I got to Green Team, and there was a group of 3 guys that had come from CQC. And it wasn't until we were out at Shaw's, which is the first with maybe weeks 5 and 6. The first 6 weeks is when everybody goes away because it's all CQC intensive.
That's right.
And I remember finishing up and we were out having lunch and drinks or something. It was me, JT, and Aaron Vaughn, and he started laughing and he was like, man, Kendle, he's from Tennessee, and he's like, hey, you're actually pretty cool, and I was like, oh yeah. He's like, man, I guess I had one of my older guys at 7. Him and I did not get along. He went over to CQC. I think he had tried out for Green Team, didn't make it. He goes over to CQC. He finds out I'm going to Green Team. Well, he tells all these guys to bottom 5 me. He's tells them I'm a piece of shit. He just is and of course these guys didn't know me because when you show up day one, every week you're doing critiques, right? And you top 5 people, bottom 5 people, and you don't really know the guys, but they want you to do it anyway. So a lot of times you just bottom 5 guys you don't know because you're I don't know who's bottom 5 here. Sorry, I'm writing 5 names of people I don't know.
Survivor.
Well, kind of. I mean, they're not just big, but they when he started telling me that him and these other guys were bottom 5 of me every week after week, we were dying laughing. He was like, "I'm sorry, man." I was like, "Hey, it's all good. We're here now." But yeah, JT and I stayed in there, and then when we. Again, going back to that draft, you start hearing those names of the guys, and we had a great crew, the 6 guys of us that I'm sure everybody felt that way. I would have been happy with all the guys there, but I just felt like it was a great crew of guys going over to gold.
Yeah.
And then, of course, you find out what troop you're going to when you get there. And JT and Aaron both went to 2 troop, which is that's who I augmented with, was Millsy and those guys in 2 troop. And I wanted to go there so bad. Even when I was in the other troop, I still always wanted to hang out with those guys. And then, I had to go check out of the West Coast because I was on Green Team temporary orders.
Yeah.
And I remember before I left there, I was living in my high bay at Team 7. You know what I mean? Sleeping on the couch. I didn't care. Just go drinking McPee's when I wanted to. I had everything.
Great place to be.
It's a great place.
Great place to be. That was a great routine.
It was awesome.
Dude.
But JT, remember? Yeah.
Crown barber, get a haircut.
Yeah.
Work away to get a cheeseburger at Danny's. Work around with McPee's, then you fall asleep.
You go to the Hotel Del in the summertime. It was beautiful.
Right there.
But yeah, JT was like, "Hey, where are you going to live?" I was like, "Man, I have no idea." I was like, "I haven't even thought about it yet. I'm just going to the West Coast, pack up my stuff, and put it in my car and come on out here." And he was like, "Well, hey, I live with Morgan Luttrell, and he's deployed right now, but I already talked to him, and you got a space with us."
Is that how that happened?
Yeah. I was like, "Sweet,
you lucky son of a gun, dude!" Because Mojo freaking scored that house out there.
He did score that house. That was
great. You had not met Morgan before that.
Never. I think you know what the funny part is. I think I ran into you guys at Danny's when I was a new guy. You guys were at 5. I was at 7.
Quite possibly.
But this was back when after
I'm a lifetime member there.
Yeah. And so I think everybody was there. I don't remember if I ever went up and said anything or not, but I just remember seeing guys, and again, first platooner, seeing guys like this, and obviously your story had already been known from the community, so you're just oh shit. But yeah, when they're like, "Hey, Morgan's there, and you can move in with Morgan," I was like, sweet. Hopefully, I'm glad he's.
Hopefully, he's a good dude.
Yeah. But again, if JT.
Well, as soon as you said it's funny to me, I was like, man, you know how funny he is about the house.
Oh yeah.
Like it has to be squared away, the carpet, the back, you know, he's like that.
Yeah. What's even more funny is fast forward a few months, my best friend I grew up with, Sean Macri, next door neighbors our whole life. He's like a few months older than me, a grade older, but when I joined the Navy, he moved down to Florida, like Jacksonville Beach. All these people from Virginia were going down there, and he grew as they called him the Passion. He had his hair like down to his ass and just hippie, smart guy, computers, all that stuff. Well, he finally finished up his stuff and his brother had done some government stuff and got him a job with like a consulting firm, whatever it is. So all of a sudden he calls me and he's like, hey, I'm getting a job in Norfolk, you know? And I was like, no shit. I was like, hey, so then I went to Morgan and I'm like, hey, my best friend of yours about to move up. Can he move in too? And so then we had all four of us living there.
Oh my gosh.
Morgan, JT, myself, and my buddy Sean who moved up. And then he ended up getting a job at the command.
Roommate.
Yeah, you know, yeah.
So how long do you live there?
I mean,
I never knew his name.
I
just remember at the funeral calling him
roommate.
I still call him roommate.
Yeah.
Is he still alive?
Yeah.
Tell him I said what's up, man.
He will. I'll tell him what's up. He's in Colorado. I snowboard with him every year.
He hadn't met Mojo either, right?
No, not before he came up there.
That's what I call my brother Morgan. His middle name's Joe, so it's Mojo. If I haven't put that up before.
Yeah. Yeah, no meeting. Just like, okay, another guy moving in that he hadn't met. And of course, Sean moved in there.
Because, you know, JT would pick somebody up quick.
Yeah.
He'll fall in love.
And we all did. And that's actually, there's another, you know, when we were living at Morgan's house, we were all sitting there one night up in that little, like, the loft room off the kitchen.
Upstairs, yeah.
And, like, we're all, like, four of us, like, on the couch, just, like, watching TV. It's, like, 9-something. We're, like, in sweatpants and stuff. And all of a sudden, this Outback commercial came on. And we're just, and like nobody's saying anything. It's just watching TV. And that commercial, like I had all this stuff, finished up that commercial. And I can't remember who said it, but somebody's like, man, I could really go for a chocolate thunder from down under. And we were all like, absolutely, dude. Like that was like marketing at its best. We packed in that truck in sweatpants and went down there. We made it a weekly thing. Like every Wednesday. Every Wednesday, if we were all together, we would go to Outback Steakhouse and get chocolate thunders from down under.
A ritual at Outback Steakhouse.
Oh, dude. We tried to we tried to keep it up afterwards.
Matter of fact, when he got in that helicopter crash and broke his back real bad and had that.
Oh, Morgan. See, that was before me.
Yeah, and we were all that spot you're talking about upstairs. Mm-hmm. So we played Xbox and watched Sons of Anarchy and all kinds of TV shows, and then would go out to eat in the sweatpants thing. Because when you're hurt, the teams, it's the best place to be, man.
Yeah,
lay your ass there, go eat, freaking relax. And that helicopter crash put him down for a bit.
Yeah.
Dang, man, I forgot.
Okay, so y'all are all at Morgan's. When was the first time you met Morgan?
Well, he got back after JT asked me to move in. He came back from deployment like a month or so later. It wasn't long after.
Okay.
Because I moved in there. It would have been like October, so he was coming home soon.
So this would have been 2010.
2010, into 2010.
Because I met Morgan when he came back from that deployment.
Okay.
Like the day after.
Okay.
He came back.
Oh, well, wait, because then you guys get married right after that? Because that's when he met Leslie too, right?
Yes.
He met him at the White House, right? Or in DC.
No, I met Morgan in DC. The first time we met was at the hotel.
At the Willard?
Yeah, and then JT came with him and another guy that I think is still active, so I won't say his name, but and Gulab was there. And a translator and a security guy, one of our friends. I don't know if he wants to be named, so I won't. But and I had Hunter. Hunter was there, and he was 12.
Little honey.
And it was the first time I ever met Morgan and them. And when you come back from a deployment, that is not the best time to first meet someone.
Oh yeah,
especially. Because he knew that we were getting married and all of that kind of stuff. It was rough for sure. But JT was so freaking sweet to like me and Hunter. Just
even deployments wouldn't mess JT up.
Yeah,
you can make him back.
Oh, he came back cheery. Like I honestly, or no, he wasn't on deployment. He was with you at the house. Mm-hmm. But he was so like I wouldn't have thought that he was a SEAL because he was so outgoing and friendly. And he told Hunter, he's like, let me show you around to like walking the mall in DC. And he showed him all the statues and what certain things meant. Like if a horse had his hoof up or whatever. He had all of these things he was teaching Hunter. And I just thought that was so cool. But that was the first time I ever met Morgan.
Oh, that's funny.
So we would have met him days apart.
Yeah.
So what was it like when he came home?
That's a good question. I don't remember that too much, but I think for me, I was just trying to like be a good roommate. You know, I'm living in somebody's house for free.
I've been trying to do that my whole life, bro.
Right? Well, because he wouldn't charge me anything either. Just like, hey, move in. You know, and I was like, oh, that's cool. And then, but obviously, it wasn't too long before Leslie. They started dating, and she was going to move out there, and that's when JT bought that house.
Yeah.
And Sean and I,
that's right. Everybody started moving.
Yeah. We all moved in with JT because he's like, well, we got to move out of here. And JT's like, well, I'm going to buy a house. Like, we'll just move in with you. And so, we went down there. JT, that team guy thing.
Jimmy May was there too, right?
He didn't live with us, but he'd stay at Morgan sometimes. But Jimmy May, he was always in the mix, but he had a house.
He was the other one that came. I didn't know if we were supposed to say his name or not, but he was the other one that came.
No, he's out.
Oh, he is. Okay.
Yeah, he's retired. He's good. Yeah.
Great dude.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
God of War there, bro. Yeah. Holy crap, man. That freaking guy.
Yeah, he'll take you down too.
Yeah. And he'll do that.
Yeah.
He's a little badass.
But yeah, I remember sitting at JT bought the house, and of course he's like, hey, he wanted to do that like spray insulation underneath the house. And so then he's like, we got to tear out all the old stuff. Who's he get to do it? The four of us. Yeah. Tim, Morgan, me, and roommate Sean. We're underneath there. We probably have fiberglass poisoning or everything. That we had like nothing. Morgan had his old Dunkin' Jams.
Still wears them.
Yeah, man. I mean, we were under that thing for hours. We were like, JT, next time just hire somebody. This is bullshit.
Dude, there are some things that you got to appreciate another human being's willingness to do it for you.
Yeah.
I mean, and pay him the money to do it. There's some things. Yeah.
Spring has sprung, but so is allergy season. Don't let pricey meds spoil your spring because GoodRx can help you save and stay healthy. GoodRx is the free, fast, and easy way to find prescriptions that you need at the lowest price. Instantly find discounts, compare prices, and save up to 80% at your local pharmacies like CVS, Walgreens, Walmart, and so many other stores. GoodRx works whether you have insurance or not, and it might even beat your copay price, so go check it out whether you have insurance or not. I know my mom was just telling me that my little siblings came down with some bad allergies the other day. We do have insurance, but she just went and checked the price, and we saved over 80% even with our insurance. It really does help a lot. For simple, smart savings on prescriptions, go to goodrx.com/TNQ. That's goodrx.com/TNQ. Go enjoy your savings from GoodRx.
Into that house for hours, but yeah, obviously, I know we had talked about getting into extortion and that kind of stuff, but leading up, like I said, that was our thing. We had a good thing going. All the guys, honestly, like I had no complaints in the world. I just felt like I was.
It's a great place to be in the teams.
It's a great place to be. I was just, excited for deployment, excited where I was. I'm living and hanging with my best friends, and
So did you go on deployment with Gold?
Yeah.
At that point?
Yeah. We all deployed. That 2011. And I ended up being down south in Kandahar, at a little outstation outside of Kandahar there with one other guy and then some support guys, which was awesome. The guy went with a total stud as well. And I was just, in the place of learning. And 2 Troop was the strike force. They were all together. And, JT and Vaughn and I communicated a bunch, always emailing, things like that. And I finally got the opportunity. There was a thing of like, hey, the strike force is working more than we are. We were working, but strike force is doing more. And as new guys, he was like, hey, do you want to go up there and join the strike force? And I was like, yeah, heck yeah. That's kind of where I'd love to be up there with my buddies. And I was about a week away from going up there when obviously Extortion happened on August 6th. I remember we had an op that night as well. And, my team leader and I got back, and, you're taking care of all your gear, sending reports first, all the after action stuff, getting everything done there. And then, finally taking care of yourself, your gear and everything else. And finally showered, everything else was done. My team leader was still in the little talk we had there. And he's like, we're good, go ahead. We had a little whiskey drink or something, and I walked into my little trailer and I just laid down. And, a few minutes into it, I wasn't even asleep yet. I remember, getting a bang on my door, and my team leader was like, "Hey, get dressed, get to the talk over here." That's all he said. So I was like, "All right," threw some shorts on and walked in there. And that's when, we have our TVs that are watching the footage and the ISR stuff. And it's just, you're just watching like a blur, it's just a ball of fire, you realize. And then of course I'm talking to him, and people are he's on the computer. They already got that. Everybody's talking other places, the guys in Africa and everything else. And that's when everything got kind of put together that was a Chinook that 2 Troop was on. Some guys, and you're like, okay, who? That's the first thing I think everybody's like, it's kind of surreal, but you're like, okay, this happened, but you got to stay focused. Let's figure out what's going on, who's there and who's not. And then all of a sudden it came out that like all the guys were on there. And it was like, oh, you're like, I don't know if it's disbelief or just, what are the things of DABDA, denial or whatever else, but you're like, no way, I was just talking to those guys. There's no way. And then you'd get like this word would come out, like one guy wasn't on there,
So
yeah, I remember when that started happening.
Was that all that night? Like you were getting just mixed messages all night?
But I think, guys are talking, nothing official is going out, and we're not putting anything official out. It's just guys talking, and, all over the world, really, on the accounts from the squadron, and probably getting word from other things. Who knows where it's coming from? But yeah, you start playing that game of like, hey, so and so wasn't on there, and you're like, there's one, and then it's like, nope, he was on there, and it's like, and like somebody else, maybe somebody else.
We all know somebody who's in theater, even, and
yeah,
I remember when the calls came up. I was back in the States. I was in DC, I think.
Yeah,
and then the numbers would come back sporadic.
Yeah,
like 1 to 5 to 9 to 12 to.
Well, yeah, I mean they shut us off. We couldn't. We couldn't even communicate with back home. So obviously nothing was coming from us. Obviously, like that's the number one rule is don't start putting anything out. You get it for these very reasons of like, I felt bad. Talking to people that were back here getting word too, like my parents, for instance.
Right.
Like my mom was a JAG lawyer for years. She had friends that were admirals and stuff. So people had connections, and word got out that there was an Aaron on the helicopter. Obviously it was Aaron Vaughn. I knew it wasn't me, but you can imagine like my mom and stuff getting word like, okay, well, how many Aarons are there? Turns out Gold Squadron had a good number of Aarons, surprisingly, but it wasn't me. But I can't call home and tell her it's not. Communications like stopped.
Yeah.
So that's why, for that very reason, it's like word's getting back unofficially, and people are like, I don't know if they think I'm dead or they just don't know what they think. And then it was finally like 2 days later when things opened up, and you could kind of, I remember calling my dad, and calling people, just being like, hey, from like a sat phone, hey, it's me, I'm alive.
Mm-hmm.
And that's it. Love to stay in chat, but there's a bunch of stuff going on, because obviously becomes like the aftermath of things. We all flew immediately to Bagram. Mm-hmm. And the Rangers were in there, and I remember talking like the Rangers were great. I mean, I think they humped all night to secure that crash site, and still fighting as that, there was a bunch of stuff going off, explosives, ordnance in there, and recovering guys what they could, and then
how'd they bring it down?
RPG
right at the back, right?
Yeah, they hit, I think somebody stepped out in the middle of the night with an RPG and just fired that thing and hit the rear rotor, dropped it out as they were coming in, at least 100 feet or so. So there's just nothing you can do for that.
And for the people that don't know the story of Extortion, why were they going? What was the mission that they were going to do?
Well, they were set up as the QRF that night, I think the Quick Reaction Force. And so the Rangers were out on the op. Now, I don't know what their mission was, going after somebody in the target deck that we had. And I think, don't quote me on this. It's been a while since I even thought about it. But I think the word I got was that they got in contact, and the guy they were going after, they sort of tracked him leaving, And so our guys are sitting back there ready to go for this very things of in case they need help or if they need to change targets or whatever else. And so I think they got up and launched. And I think the reasoning behind it was they knew that it would be quick. And so they wanted, sometimes when you're bringing those Chinooks in, like I knew down in Kandahar, sometimes that dirt is just like powder. And when you bring a Chinook in, that ramp drops and you can't see anything.
Nothing.
You just got to duck your head and just run straight out and try to get 20 yards and set up some sort of perimeter. And you can't see anything for 30 seconds after that bird leaves, So I think the point was to get boots, get firepower on the ground with our guys at one go without trying to land two of them. Just put one on there with everybody and get it off there. But how many times do you see a Chinook get taken out of the sky recently? But it's happened. But yeah, we all moved over to Bagram, and they had a C-130 bringing in with all the body bags initially. And they have which kudos to the Air Force unit that does that. I couldn't imagine that, but they got a set of Air Force guys that's their job.
There's departments in the military you don't even know exist till certain things break out. And when they show up,
I can't imagine because obviously they didn't know our guys, and they probably hopefully don't know many of the people they're taking off of there. But they were ready to go, and I remember the rest of the school, other troops were showing up from Gold, and we were just like, hey, beat it, we got this, and so you're going on to the C-130 that's just lined with body bags, and some of them are tagged and some of them are not, obviously it was pretty bad accident. So you're just sitting there carrying your buddies off, putting them on another thing, and they're heading out there. And, once everything was off, you go back. I forget where we were staying in Bagram at the little compound they have there. And the next day they did a, ramp ceremony, which was great. I don't think I've ever seen Bagram so shut down, but they had the C-17s out there, and now they're in caskets as metal ones with the flags on them, and they got people, you're assigned to one. And
how many we lose?
31 total 31. From Gold. Gosh, that's bad. 25, 26 of our guys, 6 air crew.
Who was on the ground doing the recovery, of the bodies?
The Rangers stayed on there. I think they got some backup, right. But I think those guys were on there for 3 straight days.
Oh, wow.
It was pretty crazy. They got
because it made it all the way to the target, right? Or did they move the Rangers over to?
They moved the Rangers. They were the helicopter crash. The Rangers, wherever they were at on that target, the crash happened elsewhere. They had to break contact.
Oh, okay, that's what I was asking.
Fight their way over there to secure the crash site. So they humped all through the night.
Because when the helo goes down, everyone will run over there to see what's in there.
And you didn't know if guys, you didn't know what happened if guys were alive. You got to get over there. Yeah. But those guys, obviously kudos to them for the stories I heard from those guys. They just,
absolutely.
They probably came back absolutely exhausted. They went through their own little hell week there.
Sure.
So thank you to them. But as soon as
Cal bullshit side boys, Rangers,
we'll make jokes, but
we'll make jokes, but thanks.
I'd take them anywhere.
I would never say that publicly or on a microphone or.
Wait, is this being recorded?
That.
Yeah. But once they left, you realize then we had to fly over to the base they were at, and we all flew in there, and we were going to have our own little squadron ceremony there anyway. But man, I was like, you think about it. I remember walking in there because obviously JT and Aaron were my closest guys, and you walk in there to do it, and you're walking into a ghost town, really, that compound. There was just there literally was no one left. You walk into the tents we had, and it's just.
That was a huge hit.
It's huge, yeah. All the tents are empty, and you you got computers that are up with emails being written, and you got shit like that. It's eerie.
It's frozen in the past.
Who collects that? Who goes in and?
Obviously, I think back home they have all the KCO officers.
We have people for that.
That command fired up. Each person got a KCO officer, and don't even ask what it stands for. I don't remember, but
yeah.
Everybody, we packed everything up in the bags we had, labeled it, and ended up sending it all home.
So y'all are the ones that packed it up.
Yeah, we packed everything up. And I remember, I think I did talk about this a little bit on the last podcast, but I remember, they had sent out chaplains and psychs and everything else. And I think we just, looking back, I don't know. I think that's just such a major hit, such a blow. I don't know what I was really thinking. Obviously I was devastated, but you can't, everybody around you is stoic and everybody's dealing with it. And you're like, all right, let's deal with it and push through. And, at night we'd
that's a lot.
Yeah.
When we normally get our numbers, and granted, we put some numbers up, but it's usually ones and twos of us.
Yeah, I remember obviously alcohol was a big thing for me, and I was just drinking personally. I don't think I showered. I think I told this in the last one, but I think it'd been like 5-6 days. I hadn't showered. I stole my camis. I was sleeping in Vaughn's room on his bed, and one of the guys walked in to say something. I kicked my shoes off that night. I mean, it's talk about a smell. Like, he walked in there, I thought he was gonna throw up.
Oh my god!
He was like, dude, Kendle, get your ass to the shower, like now. And I was like, all right, move my ass over there. But, a few days there, and then we went back to where we were at, our outstations, and then we regrouped, and we had to take over as a strike force. And so the 3 Troop went up there and regrouped and took over, and we kept going on deployment. I think 1 or 2 guys ended up going back home with 2 Troop and the bodies, and to go back there, but everybody else stayed overseas. So I know JT's funeral, I hear stories about it, but we didn't get to go to any of that stuff. We just
we sent him off right.
Yeah, I know.
We sent that man off right.
Yeah.
So you stayed.
We did stay, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, all the squadron did.
When did you come home?
2 months after that, I think.
Because I remember meeting you at Morgan's house, and you had like a box of stuff that we were going through that were some of JT's like pictures and different things.
Man, honestly, I don't
remember when that was, but I do remember.
Yeah, that you're talking about a time too where it's like sometimes it's hard to remember. Like I said, that was a dark time for me too.
Seriously,
Goods and bad things, but all things happen for a reason. But yeah, that was a time in my life that I just, like I said, I don't know. I think I just kind of stayed where I was at. I know I talked about it last time.
10 to 13 was a pretty good run for me too.
Yeah.
So do you, knowing that you're a man of faith, like solid foundation in faith, at that time, did you struggle with that, or did it get you through it?
Well, I'd say unfortunately at that time I wasn't that strong in my faith.
You were born a Catholic.
I was, yeah. I was born Catholic. And
so did you practice when you were a kid?
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What about when you got in the teams?
No.
Like the day you went in?
You said the teams. I just mean like the day I went to the Navy. Like you just
stopped going.
You're busy all the time. I met guys on the weekends.
I want to hear your excuse why you're not going to math, boy.
Don't look at me now. I'm good now.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would on the weekends.
No.
I'm 20. I'm 20 years old. I'm out on my own. I'm making more money.
I'm just curious because here's the deal with the mystagogy. I think because I'm not a cradle.
Yeah.
I came in later.
Neither is Mindy.
So I think that when you're growing up as a kid and you grew up in the faith, there's that mystagogy, the time you leave, right? And you're trying to figure everything out, which is in the teams, and you circle back around. They say if you put it in them when they're young.
I'd go to mass here and there if I traveled somewhere, and I thought, every Sunday when I didn't go, I thought about it, like I knew it, and then.
Hey, when you don't go.
Yeah, I knew I was being a bad boy, but. I finally, after I met my wife, she has a funny story with that because I was like sitting there and we were getting serious and, and she's talking about taking it to the next level, engagement, married. And I was like, hey, just so you know, I was like, we have to get married in the Catholic Church. And she's like,
did she know that at all?
No, because her next words to me, she goes, you don't even go to church.
Right, yeah.
And I was like, I know, but I'm going to start. I was like,
if we get married, I'm telling you,
I have this plan to start this back thing, get my butt back in gear, and yeah, that happened.
Sure, I think that's a thing because it happened to me when the kids came online. I was running the gauntlet as well, but it's that slow shift inward.
Yeah, I trust me. I wish I had the faith I have now back then. I just didn't.
Okay, so I think about that too. I had a fear that I don't have now. When your faith is sharp,
yeah,
I've noticed that,
yeah,
because I remember what it was like because I haven't been practicing that long,
yeah,
you know what I mean. And there's some things when you guys are born into it, because I went through RCIA with a bunch of cradles.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't really know anything about what you're capable of, what that stuff does.
I feel like since you had that foundation, even if you weren't practicing or going to church on Sundays. That foundation has to get you through tough times.
Yes and no, because I don't know. I just think about it now. It's like, I don't know. Just because you go through buzz doesn't mean like you're a tough guy your whole life. I don't know. Like I just like there's a foundation there, but in the teams, like we're always training, always bettering ourselves.
And team guys are tough.
And in life, that's what we should be doing
all the time,
like,
right? Yeah.
But like in like my faith aspect, I wasn't. So then, like I said, I actually started going back to RCIA again too before we got married because I was like, man, I've forgotten more stuff than I could even tell you. And you need that. Like I had the foundation, so it came back quickly. But no, I didn't have. I had not been working out spiritually for a long, long time. I was very weak, and I just didn't even think about that being a part of it. That's why I think I led to other things. You know, alcohol being one of them, and I felt
what we do.
And I just felt I look back and I just stayed like kind of on my own. Like I'm still a social guy, but I didn't talk about it. I didn't do anything, and like not even to God. You know, I wasn't even talking about it to myself. I just kind of boxed it up and just tried to shove it and put it away and think I just never think about it again. You know, that was my perfect plan.
So how long did you stay in the teams after Extortion?
Well, I left Gold in 14, and again, not by my choice, but I was just starting to fail in my job. You know, I stopped trying to get better. I just maintained, and it didn't. Obviously, that's not the place to be. That organization, you cannot maintain people's lives in the line and everything else. And so
they don't play that game there.
No, they don't. And they knew that. And so they asked me to like take a 2-year break. Asked me where I wanted to go. I had all the air quals. I was a big jump guy. So I asked my wife, who's from California.
Really?
And
you like doing that?
I hate heights, but I got into all the air stuff over at Gold.
Okay, so you hate heights. Like how? What are we talking about hating heights? What does that mean?
Like as a jump
you have a problem
master,
on an airplane?
No.
Would you have a problem standing on top of a building and looking over the side?
Yes, 100%, 1,000%.
That one gets
without
me.
a parachute on. Totally.
That gets me too.
Yeah, I don't like that.
What is that?
I don't know. There's just no control. I mean, I don't even know. Like even flying like civilian, but like flying military, I never felt like that. Flying civilian sometimes because I'm like, who are these guys in the cockpit? Like, what's going on in their lives right now?
Right?
You know what I mean? Like that's the kind of shit
bro,
I think about sometimes.
How's your day?
Yeah, how's your family? You know, who knows?
How's your day? I want to hear you on the microphone before we take off.
I want to hear that. I want to get that warm and fuzzy.
That
I like you talking to me.
A blast.
When you don't want to talk, I'm like, who's this guy? How's his day?
Yeah,
going? You know,
if they kick the mic on, he just sighs like,
yeah, like who knows?
Sheesh.
I got to buy. You got friends. Shit happens all the time. But yeah, I mean, being in an airplane, like I'm the jump master, having to like put my head out of the thing, even with the parachute, I'm like, I like don't even want to go to the edge, you know. But I enjoyed jumping. I would never pay.
Once
for it.
I jumped and fell and got down the hill and we were flying, it's all good.
Yeah.
But I just did not. I couldn't. The jump part is what got.
Well, luckily, I mean, flying like I've only jumped out of a helicopter a couple of times, like where you get that drop, like you go from like 0 to terminal, where you're like but
the stomach thing.
You know, leaving an airplane going 120 knots
feels
or whatever,
different.
that's just different. You're already there. But yeah, I went back to the West Coast and ended up being the chief of the air cell out there. Good group of guys, small group, and it was perfect. Like I said, I went back out there. My wife was pregnant with our first daughter.
Where'd y'all meet?
Well, we met in Virginia Beach.
Where?
She came out to visit Leslie. Morgan had to leave town. She was staying.
It was my brother's wife.
It was
who met at our wedding.
Who met at your wedding,
That's right.
And then Leslie grew up with my wife in Sacramento.
Correct. So I met my wife on a blind date, asked her to marry me. My brother came back from deployment
to your wedding,
to the wedding, and met Leslie, who was a maid of, or who was a bridesmaid,
who was my friend since at that point 10 years. We've been friends now for 24 years.
Yeah, married her, and then your wife and
Mindy
Leslie
came
are
out
best
to
friends.
visit Leslie, and
we turned out to be team guys.
Oh yeah, we were. Yeah,
how about that?
That's crazy. That's why I said I'm like, man, it's like a weird thing.
Yeah.
But I went back there. I looked up after having first.
Were you
kid.
married when you were in the SEAL teams?
Well, not on my last deployment. I was. We got married before my last deployment.
What piece of advice you give guys what's the best piece of advice you give married? Because I wasn't.
Wow.
I wasn't.
Yeah.
And I know that's a completely different lifestyle than the guys who are married.
Well,
it's gotta be hard. It's gotta be tough.
I think that would be tough, especially earlier on in your career.
That's
now,
right.
I think going over to Dev Group, I was one of the few single guys when I got over there. Most guys were married. There were only a handful of us that were single. And most guys had wives and families and stuff. And I think they were older, they were more mature, they were doing that. So at that point, it almost felt weird to be the single guy. I'd be like, hey, who's going out tonight? Nobody. I remember we had some Germans.
Hey, we barbecued. Let's watch Family Feud, right. Wheel of Fortune, man. Yeah. Sit down.
I mean, we do stuff like that. But I remember we had some German GSG9 guys come into town to train, and they were like, that was like my job. They were like, Kendle, you're with them, take them out, do your thing. Because they knew I was single at the time. I became a little friend.
You got to have them, man.
But earlier on, I couldn't imagine doing it earlier on. I just think, I don't know, especially as a new guy when you're putting the extra time in and everybody expects all that other stuff.
Because you always got to be the team, and then when you're gone.
Yeah. I mean,
those two things, you're never home. Yeah.
So I like I said,
I talked to those guys and those girls that get that done, bro. I couldn't do it.
Yeah. And Mindy was great, but yeah, she did 2 deployments with me. We were married for one of them. And like I said, being back on the West Coast, after having that first kid, my daughter, I was like, all right, time to go back to school, time to get my shit together. Because then I just realized, I was like, I don't think I want to stay in. I was like, I think I'll start to transition now.
And when you were on the West Coast, didn't you lose one of the guys in a jump?
That happened right before I got there in a training accident.
Yeah.
But yeah, that they lost a new guy in a jump training accident literally weeks before I showed up, a few weeks before I showed up there.
It's so hard.
Yeah, just one of those things. I mean, it's everything we do is dangerous. People think it's like in training, but the whole goal of training is to make it as realistic as possible, and to do that,
we sign up for it.
Yeah,
that doesn't mean it doesn't hurt when freaking guys go out.
I mean, yeah, being on the East Coast there at Dev Group, I mean, I think they lost about one guy a year jumping just from that alone, like in training. I mean, there was somebody. I mean, you're doing a whole different other extreme all nighttime, 30,000 feet, jumping these huge bundles and everything else. You just keep making shit harder.
Yeah. Cooler.
But yeah, so I finished up my time there, and then I punched out. And
because a lot of guys, it's hard for them to transition out. They don't want to.
Yeah, and I got real lucky on that too, because my last year jumping, obviously before I lost my arm, that leading up to that, I had a good friend of mine that came in, and he had already gotten out, was working like on Wall Street, and then I'm coming back in after August 6th. And when he was out, he had started a nonprofit to help guys transition. SEAL Future Foundation is what it's called now.
Yeah.
Real small back then.
Not anymore.
Not anymore. Yeah, they're doing great. I'm glad to see that. And they've expanded into a bunch of stuff. But I guess the role they filled was there's a bunch of stuff for guys if they get injured or, God forbid they get killed for their families. But for the guys that do their time and want to transition into just civilian life, it's like there's the Navy has something to transition you out like a week-long course.
Which should be team guys doing that.
It should be. And so that's kind of what that did. And Johnny got out. He came over there, worked under me. He did another deployment, came over, worked under me. And then when he got out, he asked me to take it over, and I got permission from the Commodore at the time. And I was running that. So doing jump courses every other month, and then kind of helping out, trying to get guys to donate money that I knew and put programs together, find guys jobs. Initially, it was just as small as like, hey, what's your next passion and purpose in life? Because for us, it's like, man, you did what you love to do. You're asking a guy like, hey, what do you want to do? They'd be like, this is what I want. This is what I love doing this.
Every guy would want to be a team guy. They knew what we did.
But every team guy would love to keep doing it. You know what I mean? Like that's such what better job.
And then that means no one else could get in.
Yeah.
Because that's why we can't live forever.
Yeah. But now you got to ask yourself, okay.
No one would leave that job.
Yeah. If you could physically do it forever.
If you could physically be a SEAL forever.
If your body didn't break down.
If it didn't break down, you do it forever.
But so then it was asking these. Now you got to ask these guys. Okay, well, what's your second favorite thing to do? Yeah. What are you interested in? A lot of guys just don't know what they don't know. And I don't mean to sound negative, but a lot of like the older guys who did like 20, 30 years, those were the harder guys to find like, well, what's your next step? They just want to stay in something.
They're institutionalized. Those 20, 30-year guys, man, they're team guys.
I don't want to use like a negative connotation.
I'm not either.
I just, they got a great mindset to go do things.
I mean, they're Navy SEALs.
Yeah. The hard part was like explain to them, like, dude, you can do anything. Yeah. Like your mindset will allow you to do anything as long as you have that passion for it.
Yeah, you got to want to do it.
I can put you in a job and you'll do good at it, but if you don't love that job, eventually you're going to come back and be like,
especially a team guy. He'll be like, dude, I don't want to be here.
They start throwing rocks, kicking rocks, the whole thing. So finding guys that next thing. So luckily I had a full year of like helping out guys, meeting great people, kind of seeing everything else that was out there. And so when it came, well, obviously I was 30 days away from getting out myself when I got injured here in Texas. And end up losing my hand.
Yeah. Probably one of the best stories, team guy stories ever.
Can you tell that?
We can. It's probably told better the first time around if they want to go back and listen.
Yeah.
But obviously I come out there to do this hunting trip outside of San Antonio every year, flying to San Antonio right after Thanksgiving, and getting up early one morning, taking a side-by-side down to get ready. I ended up rolling it. And like I said, not even a crazy thing. I had a scratch on my forehead, a scratch on my ankle, but I slid on some dirt, gravel. The thing went sideways 90 degrees with no door. My elbow got pinned, so I was doing like a side plank on my arm to keep my face off the ground. And I saw my arm break. I knew I had a broken arm. And when I stood up, it was still like 5:30 in the morning. It was dark out, and like my hand was just hanging like a fishing pole, bone, blood everywhere. And that's when I was like, "Holy shit!" Like my mindset was like, "Oh fuck, this is serious," And then I kind of told. Luckily, I had this belt on, which is
was it a Mac belt?
No, it was this Jack Daniels belt that buddy gave me, one of my Charo buddies in Arizona,
Yeah.
Hannaford Jones. Thank you, brother. Gave me, I had this belt for a while, and
I forgot.
I had it on the stairs the morning I was leaving for this trip,
yeah.
and Mindy had put it away somewhere. My Uber's there, and I'm like, "Hey, where's my belt?" And she's like, "I don't know. I cleaned up." And I'm like, "I need that effing belt." Like we had like an argument, and I never care. I mean, I don't care what I'm wearing. She's like, "Get another belt." I'm like, "I don't want another belt. I want that belt." So we ended up finding it. Of course, that's like the one belt that would have saved my life. Because even like those other belts we have, those cloth ones. I mean, I don't know if I could have got it tight enough and everything else, but that's
the big thing about tourniquets. Most people underestimate.
I tourniqueted myself, and I hiked about a mile back up to the house, and had those guys call 911, and they were great. They helped save me too. Another tourniquet on my arm, too foggy for life flight, 30 minutes for an ambulance to show up.
Yeah, that's right. Perfect storm on you.
Yeah.
That's right.
But, woke up that next morning at the hospital. I had two of my old team guy buddies that were on that trip with me. They were there. And my wife had already gotten, Mindy's stories. She got called at, 2 a.m. on the West Coast or whatever it was, being like, or not even a call. It's our people knock on the door, one of my other teammates. Mindy's like waking up, and it's like, Aaron's injured. He's alive. Pack this suit. We're packing your suitcase. Go jump in the shower. And she's like, "What the?"
Oh my
So and then they had a plane ticket for her. Which when I woke up, she was there in San Antonio. They had already amputated, and that's where you got Dr. Hand was the doctor talking to me.
That's his real name.
That's what his name was. Dr. Hand.
Great team guy. This is a great team guy story.
Yeah, and like I said,
even the actors and players, fantastic names.
I was coming out of it. I was still like coming out of surgery, like groggy and drugged up. And somebody in that one of those two guys was like, "Well, hey doctor, where is his hand?" And he's like, probably in the
a Navy SEAL walked up to the doctor and asked him for the severed hand. Continue.
Yeah, and doctor's like, "Man, I don't know. It's like it would have to be religious." They were like, "Can we have the hand?" And he's like, you could tell he was
again, ask the doctor for the severed hand.
Yeah, so he said it had to be a religious reason. We gave him a religious reason. Made one up on the spot. And then I transferred to the military hospital that night. And the next day, I don't want to get anybody in trouble, but like my buddies went there with no relation to me whatsoever, and they came back with my hand. Like somebody was like, "Here, like just giving body parts away."
Yeah, it's so good.
And so like they brought it back.
Did they give it in ice? How do you receive a hand?
Yeah, I've seen pictures of it. I never got to see it in person like that. I have the skeleton, obviously now we'll get to, but the hand I only got pictures of because they brought it back. But at this point now, more guys have flown in East and West Coast. They're all staying at this Marriott.
This is where it gets good.
And, they'd be with me all during the day. And then, like 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, they'd shut it down for visitors. I had my own room, thank goodness they gave me, because people are just making hand jokes. And there was a roommate at one point I had
all day
who I never saw. And I think they were like, this is not the mentality that these people should be hearing that are injured, of like everybody wanting to shake my hand and like telling me hand jokes and just like making fun of me. And I'm laughing, but I don't know if everybody else would be laughing. But so they moved me in my own room, and everybody would leave, and one person would stay the night there on this little uncomfortable hunk of chair. Everybody knows it in the hospital room.
Oh, dude, they do that on purpose so we won't shack up in there. That's probably the most uncomfortable piece of furniture.
Yeah. But yeah, everybody was going to like Dave and Buster's or something every night. And then I'm getting pictures of guys. And then I started getting pictures like back at the hotel, like of people like holding my hand and videos with my hand. I mean, I'm looking at
severed hand.
It looks gnarly. Like I'm cool.
It did look gnarly, man.
It's like the skin from my forearm is like it's like all wrinkly. It's like dirty. I mean,
it had dirt tucked in it.
Yeah. I mean, I'm just like, and they're like they're like shaking.
It had to smell.
I mean, they kept it in the freezer for most of the time. So maybe when it started to thaw out a little bit, they put it back. I don't know. You'd have to bring one of those guys in to talk about that, really. But they finally one of my good buddies who was out, but he had to fly back to San Diego, back to his family, and the hand, I guess, was in his freezer. And he
in the mini bar in the hotel.
Yeah, in his little mini freezer.
This is where it gets great.
So he goes, I remember him saying he went to the front because he got to the hospital. He's like, "Hey, the hand is in my room. I got to check out today." But I went to the front desk and said, "Hey, can I move something to my buddy's room?" Whatever. And
a severed hand.
Well, yeah, he didn't say.
Let's be clear what we're talking about here.
We are talking about the hand, but the hotel didn't know, and they were like,
Right.
"Well, no, we can't give you a room key that's not yours, but you can give us the bag, and we'll put it in there." So he's like, "No, I can't." He's like, "Oh," so he just left and came there, and I guess he had the goal of telling somebody, but then as the day went on, like he
forgot about it.
So like that evening. And the hospital staff knew about the hand and the thing, and like the hotel knew who these guys were because all the team guys make it known. After a week in a hotel, like everybody knows who they are, what's going on. And so the maid went in there to clean the room at checkout. Obviously,
that's because we usually get inebriated and hit on the staff.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
That's how they find out who we are.
We're just having a good time partying, And so this lady finds a hand, obviously freaks out, calls 911 as she probably should. She was a good citizen.
I can't believe that happened. That the freaking maid found a severed hand in there.
Yeah, I'm sure, God knows if she sees a therapist today. I don't know. I'm sorry if she's listening.
Bless you if she did. Yeah.
But yeah, the hotel calls the hospital. The hospital staff walks in and they're like, "The police are at the hotel. They found your hand." And so we're like, "What?" And so immediately the guy whose room it was in and another buddy drive back to the hotel, which is only a few minutes away.
Dude, that is such a great
They get there
story,
and like about 20 minutes later, I had a phone in my room that we would call out in my hospital room. We used it to call out and order food all the time. I'd never got a phone call in. I didn't even know how to call in. Somehow that phone rings. It was the Phantom. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, right.
I wish. It turned out to be this guy.
Because then it would have been a complete story, dude.
I'm sorry. Oh, that would have been.
Yeah.
But it turns out it's this detective. He's like, "Hey, this is Detective so-and-so with the San Antonio PD." And I'm like, immediately, I'm just like, "Hey, I'm thinking like my buddies are in handcuffs." I'm just "Hey, those are my two buddies." I tell him the whole story. I'm like, "There's DNA there. You can come. I'm in the hospital room here. You can come test me." He was like, "Hey, we just need to make sure it wasn't a homicide." I'm like, "It's not."
Oh my God.
Did you tell him to mess with him a little bit and be like, "Hey, those are the guys"?
I didn't. I think I was just. Hindsight being 2020.
I get it. No,
I didn't expect
looking back,
have
sure.
a detective.
I get it, bro. I get it, man.
So, after that, he hung up, and then they put it in an.
What a great story for a detective to have about us, though.
Right.
You ever had, any SEALs? Check this out.
Well, I'll tell you what's even great is one of my buddies flew in from Arizona and got an Uber from the airport, and he was getting an Uber straight to the hospital. And his Uber driver knew the story.
Oh my God.
His Uber driver started being like, "Hey, I heard there's a guy here, like there's a hand and
That's
like a
great.
thing," and he was like, "That's my buddy."
That's
Oh my God.
I mean, one of the other guys must have gotten
Dude,
an
do
Uber
they
from
have a
him.
trophy case at the sheriff's department? We might have to store the hand after we depart.
Yeah, there's two parts there.
Do you keep in touch with that guy?
Not the detective. There's a sergeant. There's a deputy from the Kerrville PD. I think she's out now, but I kept in touch. I haven't talked to her in a while.
Okay, good. Somebody, right?
Because when they after that they were like, "We got to do something with the hand," so we were like naturally like, "Well, let's take it to a taxidermist. We're going to keep it." And so they brought it. I wanted to do it like a nice wine holder.
Was this his first hand?
I don't know.
The taxidermist?
Just
curious.
They just said they don't get to work on body parts. They put me to the front of the line.
Great answer. Because wow.
You hope not. Yeah. But yeah, they put it in like this Beauty and the Beast Forever Rose case, which I think you guys have a picture of.
I have a great picture of it.
Yeah.
I have a couple of pictures of it, actually.
Yeah. So they did that. And then it sits in the closet, comes out.
Looks like the Terminator. Remember the Terminator scene when the arm comes out of the deal?
But it's been like that beautiful, it's like nice glass thing. Right. Kids, I need to take it back because the glue is starting to come out. It's like, because I use it all the time.
My gosh. What do your
Halloween
kids say about the hand?
You're talking about stealing
What's that?
What do your kids say about the taxidermy?
Oh, they're so used to it. Like my kids' friends come over, they're like, "You want to see my dad's hand?" He's like, "What?" I'm like, "Do they really want to see it?"
You forget when you become a parent,
like they're so used to it.
Oh my God.
Like it's just another thing for them. Like Hazel's never known me with a hand. You know what I mean? They only knew me for a little bit, but
oh my God.
Yeah, that whole thing went on, and
because you don't wear badass mechanics and stuff like that.
I don't wear anything, man. I had a prosthetic. I had the best prosthetist over there, and it just I think technology's changing all the time, and I get through right now.
I ran across a guy the other day, and I don't remember his name to save my life, and I'm sorry because this was a quick conversation, but he was an amputee, and he had this mechanism on, bro.
He made it himself,
or the neighbor made it, or something. And I mean, it was straight out of a movie. It was moving back and forth, had pistons moving. His hand rotated 360 degrees.
And it had like a
and it had a sling.
It had a sling where the other
across to the other arm. Oh, it was cool. I mean, I went out of my way to get to him. I was like, bro, that thing is awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah, mine was awesome too, but like I said, to save my elbow, I skipped that because of the accident. Whenever they cut everything, I had exposed bone, and so I had a wound back on. Every doctor I talked to over there was like, and I get it, that's probably what happens. They were like, you're probably going to lose your elbow. And I was like, whatever, I'm alive. But I believe he's out now, so I'm going to say his name. But Dr. Joseph Alderete flew in. He was like in D.C.
Good to go.
Oh, man. I mean,
he's the guy?
He's probably one of the best in the
world. Say his name again?
Joseph Alderete.
All right, doctor?
Yeah, I think he's here in San Antonio. I always need to text him about catching up. But, man, he walked in that after a surgery, like a cleanup surgery. He was like, first time with me, like checking everything out. He does like all the spec ops guys and everything. Yeah. I woke up from that surgery and he was like, hey man, his exact words to me, he goes, hey, we're going to MacGyver this shit and I'm going to save your elbow.
Oh,
and I was
dang.
like, okay. I mean, I still didn't realize how important
those are the right words too, because you dropped the MacGyver.
Right,
it's like,
MacGyver.
I exactly know what you're
that's what I'm saying. Like, I like this guy.
Get your ass in there.
And so,
go to work.
Do that, he cut out about 80% of my lat muscle and stuff that's kept it.
He got to kick that scar down. It was like a seam.
Yeah, it looks like I got ripped apart, man. I actually there's some badass pictures. That picture.
You tell people shark attack, right?
I should. I tell whatever. But that picture is a gnarly picture. I don't know if you have that one. They have me. I'm face down on the operating table, and they have me split open from butt cheek to the entire side of my body is split open.
That would probably upset me if I saw you beat up like that.
It's gnarly.
I haven't seen that one. I mean, the hand's funny and shit, man, but I don't.
I think it's just crazy what you can do medically.
Yeah.
Days, and like they cut my.
It's unbelievable what they can do to us.
Put it over here, but obviously, like the nubbin we call it, it's huge. But my lat is in here, and I was supposed to do other surgeries. I was supposed to do more surgeries to like take down the excess muscle that's not needed anymore because getting a prosthetic big enough. I can't wear my prosthetic with like a long sleeve shirt. It's too big. So that's why but not that I would anywhere right now, but that's why I was supposed to go in for more surgeries. But then, there's a lot of things that happened after our last podcast.
Life, yeah.
Well, I found out I had to have heart surgery. I retired.
Yeah. Hold on, does it hurt?
No.
It doesn't hurt at all?
I have what's called phantom sensation. It feels like I can feel my hand. Feels like when you sit on something and it goes to sleep. Yeah. It feels like it's like that. I'm just used to it now, but it tingles like 24/7.
Okay, yeah. So post surgery, post funny story. I mean that is hilarious. Your whole hand thing is, which I have to say, as Marcus's wife, I had been married to him. So this happened what year?
End of 17, November
2017. Okay, so I had been married to Marcus for 7 years at that point. I had not heard him laugh as hard as he laughed when he got the call about this whole situation.
Yeah.
Ever. Like,
go outside.
The laugh didn't exist until that moment. And I start laughing. I don't even know what I'm laughing at, but I'm hearing him he's just on the phone. I don't know what's going on, but he's laughing so hard. I'm laughing and crying.
You ever done that to anybody? Laugh so hard that everyone else, they don't even know what's going on. They just start laughing.
Going on.
That's where I was at.
Yeah.
It was he was literally, tears were coming out of his eyes. He was laughing so hard. And I think he called everyone in his phone book.
I called Peter Berg. I was like, bro, you're not good. I got the best team guy story you need to make in. You need to put this scene in your movie. And I was laughing so hard that I could hear him laughing out loud. I mean, like a contagious, can't help but laugh. That's where I was at. It hit me so hard.
It was
the thought of the team guys getting drunk and leaving the freaking hand in the damn bar.
That to him was the moment that I realized, oh my gosh, he has a giggle bag inside.
Dude, I did, man, because I could just see him sobering up a little bit and being like, what did I forget? Oh. Yeah. And I thought of, I don't know who it is. I'm not going to say their names out loud, man, but God bless that man for that action because it made me...
He laughed for days. It wasn't just like a one...
Well, I couldn't get over it. Like, I thought about it so much that now it's like, hey,
Well, there's something to it, too. And I talking about being in the hospital room with somebody else who's injured is, just perspective. Obviously, you've gone through your thing and lost guys and, like... guys like us, we sit here now and like, it's like, okay, one, is he alive?
Yeah. That's all you got to, that's the first question.
Yeah. And guess what? He's going to be, okay, he's missing a hand, but that's what I said. It's like, I'm okay, I'm missing a hand. It's like, okay, he's alive. I get to go home. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like, a lot of guys don't, like we were talking about. I got to go home 3 weeks in the hospital, and I went home to my wife and kids.
Right.
Like that's a blessing. So
Yeah.
like everything else is extra credit. That's why
feel
as we go through the other stuff, my wife is like,
Yeah.
dude, you're like, my wife thinks I should be like a bubble boy now. I never got injured in the teams. Man,
Oh, yeah,
I was so
understand that.
lucky. Never anything. Then I got the hand thing, and then
Yeah,
like I said,
so you get out, or
I retired
you're
in
totally
19.
out of the military now.
yeah, retired in May of 19. I'm checking into the VA, like, because I'm like, I'll just use the VA. I got the health care for the family, and I always had. I knew the last few years in, I had like a leaky valve. They told me my aortic valve. Never had any issues. No history of heart stuff in my family. So whatever, I'd always do like an EKG, and then they'd do like an echo on me, and that's when I found out my valve. And so like obviously the last like 4 years prior to this was like on my arm, or 3 years. So I check, I'm going in there. This time I do the EKG, the ECG, and then they call me and they say, hey, we need to do a CT scan on your heart. And I was like, all right. Did the CT scan. It took like 2 months to get the results. And I remember the doctor called me. He's like, I need you to come in. I was like, that's a little weird, but what could it be? And I remember Mindy being like, what are you going? I'm like, I'm going in there. She's like, I'm coming with you. I'm like, it's nothing. I go in there and he's like, you need to see a cardiothoracic surgeon. He's like, you have an aortic aneurysm. They're like, your ascending aorta is way oversized and you need to go see a surgeon, And I'm like, you sure? Is there anything I can do about this? Can I eat better? Can I,
Can I cut out cheese?
Yeah. He's like, it only goes one way.
No dairy. Got it.
In my mind, I'm like, okay, we can fix this. Everything's fixable, And so then I luckily got linked up with that's when Morgan called, I found out on a Tuesday afternoon. Wednesday morning, I hadn't told anybody. I talked to a family friend who was kind of cardiothoracic surgeon. He's like, yeah, you need to talk to somebody. This is all, it's serious, but it's normal, I'm thinking like, shit. The next morning, Morgan called me because obviously Mindy told Leslie. Leslie told Mojo. Mojo calls me and is like, hey, Gub's going to call you here in a few minutes. When you see a number you don't recognize, make sure you answer it. And
Talking about Rick Perry, right?
Yeah,
Governor Rick Perry?
Yeah. So, who, by the way, also helped me out in the hospital, Bamsey. His sister worked there. I don't know if she still does, but she worked like a night shift, left me a note.
How great is that family?
So great.
They are awesome.
Just awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, she left me a note being like, call me if you need anything. I never met her face to face, but yeah, 15 minutes later, I get a number. I call Rick Perry, just kind of business. Hey, how are you? Good. He's like, hey, I'm not a doctor. He goes, but I called a bunch of people and I got a list of the best ones.
He knows them.
And he goes, one of the top guys is right there in San Antonio, and you have an appointment tomorrow afternoon at 1:45. And I was like,
Roger that.
wow, thank you.
That's how you get stuff done.
Right. And so next day I showed up at this doctor's office, Kim Delacruz. I think he's over at Harvard Medical now. Big thank you to him too. But I met him and his staff, and we went through all this stuff and did more tests. And he's like, a normal aorta, dude, is like 2 to 3 centimeters in diameter. Yours is anything over 5.5 centimeters, like needs surgery, and you're at like 5.8.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like, okay,
Team guy, overachiever.
yeah. I'm like, when do I need to do this? He's like immediately, like in the next few weeks. I wanted to wait till after Christmas.
Yeah.
And he was like, no, I thought this was gonna be the one that took me down. I was like, damn it, look, I find out about something. I got plenty of time. Good surgeon that's gonna kill me. Like I'm gonna die in surgery or something. So I was like, let me just get through Christmas. And he's like, no, we're doing it now. Yada. We walked out. He was a Filipino guy. I was born in the Philippines. He's a Filipino dude wearing cowboy boots.
That's the one you want right there.
And we got out.
That's a good omen. If I'd have seen that too, I'd have been like, that's the guy right there.
Everything just matched up because Rick was like, hey, let me know if you like the guy. If you don't like him, we'll just go on this list. So Minnie's like, hey, what do you think? Should we talk to the next doctor? I'm like, no. I said, this is it. We're going here. What am I going to do? We're going to hear the same stuff. I like this guy. I like his staff. I've known him 30 minutes. I made an assessment and said, let's do it. So really, 3 weeks later, that was like November 6th. I was in surgery December 3rd.
Did they say like what caused it?
No, I did genetic testing. I did everything. Nobody in my family has anything.
Could it have been?
That genetic doctor was a hoot. I mean, no offense to anything, but I spit into a tube like 23andMe, and I saw the insurance paperwork on that. They tried to charge me like $15,000 for that shit.
Oh my god!
And then the results came back. I went over and met him in person, and he goes, "Let me just start by saying there's genes we know cause this. There's genes we know about that we think might cause this, and there's genes that we don't know that might cause this." And I'm like, okay. I'm sitting there like with smoke coming out of my ears, like, what the fuck's that mean? And then he's like, so it's not genetic, but it could be. And I'm like, what? I'm like, what answer is that? I'm like, so you're telling me that I just got to test my kids out for the rest of my life now, and I'm supposed to be getting tested again? And he goes, I said, if I have nobody, he's like, well, you could be the first. I'm like, wonderful. Thank you for that.
Gosh.
So what you're telling me is a balanced diet and a healthy lifestyle. Roger that.
That's right.
Did they say that it could be from the amputation?
No, this would have been before, because my valve was leaky before that. And they think the leaky valve stemmed from how dilated my aorta was. But yeah, I did that. I got that scar on my chest now. They cracked me open for that. I was good to go. COVID wasn't long after that. And of course, during COVID, being bored, started skateboarding again with some other dads in the neighborhood. Got Joey and Tribe Skate.
You got a skateboard gang with the dads?
Yeah, got Tribe Skate. I got Tribe Skate to fire me up a board, a longboard. And Joey Nobody did a badass
Joey
thing
Nobody.
for me. I mean, it's a work of art. He also made me one like for free, like a extra one that's like me as like a Frankenstein with no arm and all my scars. It's badass.
That's good, dude.
It's great. He did it awesome.
That freaking guy, both them, Deej and man, that Tribe Skate.
I want to go back and get more work done, but
I'll bring him out here.
Let's do it.
We'll bring his ass out here. We've done it once before. He's been out here before. I said bring him out here again.
Yeah, I'd love to do some stuff on this side.
When I heard he was back on the gun because he retired for a little bit.
I did. I know. He can't retire.
I know he can't.
He can't. But yeah, I'm skateboarding. This is when Mindy had just had Hazel right before COVID, like March 30th, like 2 weeks ago, 4 years ago. Of course, all that pandemonium there, like we weren't talking to anybody. I'm out there skateboarding like down this hill like on a Sunday morning, like bombing it. Made this turn, hit this wet patch. Just I don't know how they bought me a wrist guard, like protect what you got. Get launched off this damn skateboard. Land directly on my nub. Shatter both epicondyle. I like skated. Somebody saw me. I was so embarrassed, like a neighbor. They were like, "Oh my God, are you okay?" I was like, "I'm fine." Like, just like skated as fast as I could. I skated out of there. I got back to the front yard. I'm like, it actually didn't hurt, but I knew I heard it.
Oh, dude.
I get back in the front yard. Mindy's out there. We're like, Dylan, Hazel was napping. She's like, "What?" I was like, I fucked myself up. She's like, "You're fucking kidding me." I was like, "I'm not." Because she was like, "You can't go to the hospital." I was like, "I got to." We called already. He was getting ready to deploy. He sent me in there, but I had to have surgery on that. I had to have surgery on my elbow.
Oh my god.
Yeah, so I had more scars. Shit, and then what was the last one I had? Shit, I had a seizure last year. Right before Bo's retirement.
All right.
Out of nowhere. Supposedly. I don't really believe him, but I did go out. Woke up in the hospital.
Were you drinking?
No, it was like in the middle of the day.
That's probably why.
Sitting there.
You weren't drinking.
I was just on my computer, and man, next thing you know, I was like at the hospital. And our daughter's tutor was there, and she said she just heard me like hit the ground and called 911, that whole shebang.
You like a grand mal seizure or a petite mal?
I don't know the difference. I was a terrible corpsman. What? Because then like I got out of the hospital, like 2 days later, I'm like heading to San Diego for Bo's retirement. She's like, "You're not going." I was like, "Yeah, I am." I'm like, what else am I supposed to do? Like at this point, if I keel over
what did they say
dead,
it was from?
I don't know.
Well,
but that's when I got linked up with the boot campaign, which was great too, because I always go to like the San Antonio skeet shoot.
Yeah, the boot shoot.
I've been doing it for like
the boot girls. The boot campaign is great.
They're fantastic. The boot campaign is just amazing. But it's funny because I know them all. I shoot with them all once a year. I see them all. I was hanging out, and all of a sudden they're like, "Hey, why aren't you like get with the boot campaign? You know, like why the hell aren't you talking to the boot campaign? You know, about all this stuff?" And I'm like, "Well, that's a damn good idea. I guess I should be. I didn't realize it." So got linked up with them, went to a lot of testing up in Dallas and stuff. Jenny, I got to hit you up. I got to follow up with Jenny. Just get a reminder. They keep telling me to. Actually, yeah, it was one of your board members, John Hughes, is the one sitting with John Hughes talking about it. And he's like, you know how John is so eloquently and nicely when he talks to you. He's like, "Hey, dumbass, why aren't you talking to these people?"
Oh my gosh.
So we'll see.
Good squad, man.
But yeah, that's what. Shoot, I know we were going to talk about some of the race stuff I have coming up.
Yeah, so you also, on top of all of your injuries and everything in between that, you've been doing like ultra marathon type stuff, right?
Yeah, I don't know if ultra is the category for it. I don't want to like take away anything from ultra distance stuff, but I think it started.
Oh, they'll let us know.
To me, it's ultra.
Yeah, I mean, it started off with Big Josh doing that Leadville race.
Yeah.
And Morgan.
That's an ultra.
That's a ultra. That's a 100-miler. Straight through. I think an ultra is anything over a marathon, with the shortest one being like a 30.
Oh, is that right?
32 miler is like the shortest ultra you can do. I think foot race. This one was 100, but you can have people pace here for like the last 40 miles. So, Mojo and those guys were getting ready to do it. I was running and was like, yeah, I'll do it. So I was get back into running, doing it with them. I did Leadville. I helped, paced a little bit with Leadville. That was a kick in the groin for me. I don't know how somebody does 100 straight miles. That was doing 40 miles was like.
The elevation is what it's
oh my
the
gosh.
kicker for that.
I mean,
one,
I wouldn't
right?
even, I was just walking at that point,
Joshua got it done. He got that buckle.
He got it done. He got the lead man. He did the mountain biking and the running all within a few months to like get the lead man thing.
Oh my
It's not
gosh.
just Leadville. It's a whole series, a race series, man. It's crazy. He did the whole thing.
Yeah,
But after that, I was like, I'm not running anymore. I was telling Hunter, I was like, I need to find something easier on my body these days. And so, old Pops had hooked me up with the Challenged Athletes Foundation. And they have their Operation Rebound, which is great. Their military side. Linked up with a guy there, Nico, and I was like, man, I'd love to get into like cycling, something easier on my body. And man, they were great. Gave me a grant and got me a road bike. I started road biking, still running, but trying to bike a lot with like all my neighbors. And then I found out they do this bike race from San Francisco to San Diego.
That is a long way.
Yeah, 640 miles or something. But I was like, well, it's over like 7 days. But I was like, that's still, that's awesome. Like, who wouldn't want to ride down the coast? Back when I got the bike in 2022, I wasn't ready for it. It was like in October, and I was like, I haven't been on the bike that long. And so in 2023, I ended up like wanted to. I started training pretty serious for it. And then in the summer of last year, my buddy, another guy, started a nonprofit, Invisible Wounds Foundation. To focus on like mental health, first responders, that kind of stuff. He called me up, an old Buds guy, one of the Buds originals. And, he was like, hey, we're doing this monster mash. We're going to skydive into this river in Montana, swim 10 miles in the river, get out and run 200 miles into Sheridan, to raise money.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what? And then he's like, are you in? And I'm like, oh, fuck. Yeah, I guess so.
Oh my God.
That's how people get me. But
dude, that's how most team guys get it.
But also, like for me, if I don't have a goal for something, then I'm not doing anything. Like I want it. Like my body wants to be on a couch, like sitting there with a glass of wine. Like the thought of like sweating.
Bring a Labrador next to me, watching
like a dog on my lap.
Movies,
like the thought of like sweating these days, I'm like, oh gosh, I'm such a wimp. But get me a goal, and I'm like, all right, I'll do it. So I was training for the bike. Then I started running a bunch. Mindy was like, she's just like, what are you doing? Like Saturday mornings, I'm out the door like 3 a.m. running for 14 hours. You know what I mean? But you're just in like that zone too. So I'm not like doing a.
Do you get a runner's high?
No.
I never got that.
No. What is that?
I don't know. I never achieved
that's
that.
That's fake.
It's got to be fake. I never got it.
Unless it's the part where you're so exhausted, you're hallucinating maybe.
Well, they say it kicks on to where, it feels like that endorphin kick where it's like a drug and it feels great and everything's good. I've never.
No. Just starting running is like the worst feeling of all time. To stand there and then begin to run is like,
it's just terrible.
It's the worst.
Oh.
But of course, you got to do it. But anyway, so yeah, the race came. We got picked up. We did some training with Exos in Arizona. They were great. One of their guys.
That's the top-notch organization in the world. Exos.
They're great. So there was about 8 of us. 8 or 9, I can't remember. But some team guys, mostly team
Dr.
guys.
Dr. Andrews and that Exos organization. If you can somehow find your way into there,
yeah.
Yeah, the Andrews Institute, the one that's the Pensacola location was the first one, and it's connected to the Andrews Institute and Orthopedic Hospital. And that's where Morgan went after his helicopter crash.
Yeah.
And that's where Marcus has gone for 18 years.
Yeah. Whatever it is, 18 years.
Yeah,
That's great. But they gave us a base to keep training, and then October hit last year, and so I flew out to San Francisco, and man, that was a great ride. That Challenged Athletes Foundation. It was the last year they're doing that ride, and I get it. It's such a logistical nightmare. Like hotel. I mean, there was at least 150 people, if not more, doing it. There's about 27 challenged athletes, meaning like they were people that have taken, been a part of that community, like gotten a bike from me. There was one other arm guy, a number of leg amputees. I mean, there were paralyzed people with hand bikes.
Yeah.
There were people that hand bike down the damn coast from San Francisco to San Diego.
Did they film it?
They did film some of it. I don't know if, I mean, I'm sure like on their social media and stuff
Yeah.
they did. I don't, I got pictures and stuff I took, but man, that was such an incredible thing. That organization and the people I met there. Again, you talk about humbling. With me, people look at me sometimes. Man, I think that's the point of me coming on here is to be like, hey, there's so much out there that's possible, no matter what you do. My life is still pretty easy without one hand, but I'm looking around there, those dudes that are paralyzed in a wheelchair. And
Yeah, some of our guys, sure.
I mean, it's amazing, dude. I just,
and girls.
Guys and girls, excuse me. I apologize. But, man, eye-opening for me, such a humbling experience to be doing that. And then a few weeks later, flew up to Sheridan, Wyoming, and that town, patriotic, talk about a patriotic place there and good people, flew into Sheridan, just shirts off the backs from everybody around there. Luckily for that monster mash, they ditched the jump in. I was like, I'm not jumping. Even if I have two hands, I'm not jumping. I was like, I'll be the DZSO on the ground, but they scratched that. We did a helo cast into the water. Guy had a helicopter up there, took us 3 at a time and dropped us in the water. And
she wants to go to Hawaii and do that with the kids. The helo cast. There's a Trident.
There's a field that's
opened up the
yeah.
Trident Tours. Was it?
Yeah.
Is that what it's called?
Hunter.
Trident Adventures.
Who is
Trident
that?
Adventures?
With Stephen Kaplan.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I saw.
It's a big deal out there. I've seen some videos.
Yeah, it's fun. I mean, we jumped in from 5-10 feet.
That's still great. I bet they love that, man. It's
most of them were SEALs. I felt bad. We had one guy who was in the first run. They dropped him in on the wrong spot in the river. So they dropped him about 10, 15 feet into about 5 feet of water.
Oh, shit.
Oh, shit.
He ended up breaking his foot. He didn't know at the time.
Oh,
but he jacked his foot up. Then we jump in. Like, we were in wetsuits. I mean, that river was cold. Bighorn River, I think. It was about 40 degrees.
Oh, my God.
Then we jump in the second group and, and I just bought for me, like I said, I swam growing up. So I was like, I'm not even training for the swim.
Right.
I was like, I'll beat these guys with 2 hands. I got no problem with that. But the day before I went out there, I picked up a pair of fins from like Dick's Sporting Goods. Let me just say that was a terrible idea. So we get in the water there and start swimming, and it's with the current, thank goodness. But it was almost more dangerous like that because there was like a lead boat out there, and myself and like Eddie Gallagher swam with me. We were up front, and then all of a sudden you like look up, and they'd be like, "Get to the other side! Like there's rocks and shit." You're like, "Dude, you got rocks to the hips and things like that." But
oh my God!
we hauled ass, and I'm kicking with those fins, and shit. We did 10 miles in 2 hours. That current was moving.
That's fast.
And so we got out of the water there. Eddie and I got out of there. I made sure I beat Eddie too. He knows it. I had just at the end I sprayed just to make sure I got first.
Well, it has to be the one-armed guy.
Right, I had
beating.
to. Plus I talked shit beforehand, so I had to back it up. But we got out of the water, and then everybody gets up, and one of the guys is talking about his foot, and so we're like, all right, and we get our take a quick shower, get some food, get our stuff on, and then we started running. And I think that first day we only did like 37 because we had to stop because the Crow reservation there, the Crow Nation had like a cool ceremony for us the next morning, so we could only do so many miles that first day. But I'd heard that the guy whoever broke his foot, I apologize for not using names, I just don't know, people want him to. I haven't asked, but he had done like 26 some miles, and then they picked him up and took him to the hospital, like drove him to the hospital, and we're out there in the middle of Montana here. Yeah. And then we finished up that night. They had one of the support guys, this father-son, had like a snowmobile trailer, so they could heat it, and had like little beds, inflatable beds for us and stuff, and all our gear. And so we were getting there, got some food at the end of the day, and talking about the next day. And he came back from the hospital, and they were like, yeah, they X-rayed it, he broke it, yada yada yada. He's got like that little tiny little shoe on thing. Get some sleep. Next morning, get to run, and there he is putting his shoes on.
Oh my gosh, he ran with his broken foot.
We're like, what do you? Hey man, he's like, I walked around, but he's like, it's broken. It hurts the same whether I'm running or walking.
My God.
So he did the next 3 days of straight running, like he had a broken foot. But that second morning was awesome. Crow Nation, they did a freaking awesome ceremony for us and everything else. And
that's cool. Full dress up and everything.
Yeah, they had people out there, and
that's nice.
And like I had that second day. Let me again from the dang fins I bought. The first minute I started running that first day, my ankles were like in pain. My cankles here.
Yeah.
I think I just extended my ankle out. So like every day, I was just in like a 9 out of 10
you had fins on a while.
Dude, it crushed
Remember
me.
that?
I should have just went without him. It was stupid. But, if you're going to be stupid, you better be hard.
Better be hard.
But yeah, day 2, I was like, I got to run. My body's just hurting anyway. So I took off. I was kind of ahead of myself. And I was like by myself the whole second day, which actually I wasn't by myself. I had my buddy Paul Belt, who was a ex-Army guy up there who lives there. Again, great support wherever we go. Paul was in a Toyota 4Runner. That might have been actually worse than running. He just stayed like 10 yards behind me, like on the shoulder, driving 2.5, 3 miles an hour for 3 days. It's just like, and I finally started using him. I'd like wave, he'd drive up, I get some water. He'd like keep a one of water and one of Gatorade in there for me. He was awesome. Paul was my man. I survived with Paul, but yeah, we ended up finishing that up in Sheridan on Veterans Day. Again, they had a great little ceremony there. The people of Sheridan are just crazy. I was sorry to hear because they had that shooting there not too long ago.
Yeah.
And one of the cops that was one of the deputies that helped us out there, I think it was the guy that ended up getting killed up there. So condolences to that community too. But yeah, that kind of brought me here, and I finished that race and my ankles hurt for 2 straight months. I didn't run. I got back before Veterans Day. I looked at Mindy. I said, I'm not exercising 1 ounce. I said, I'm sitting here. I'm about to do Thanksgiving and Christmas. I'm going to enjoy myself, drink good wine. And then kind of right before like mid-December, I got a call from a guy named Cameron Hamilton, who's with USA Triathlon. And he knew another SEAL buddy of mine from Arizona and was like, hey, I'm calling you. I got another proposition for you, another race. And I was like, oh boy. I'm like, what do you got? And so he tells me, he's like, it's this race called the Norseman. It's in Norway. It's in August. It's a full triathlon. So I'm not even sure I know all the distances exactly. Maybe 2.5 mile swim, but then it's a 112 mile bike and then a marathon. You jump into this like fjord, like freezing fjord, and he's telling me about this race, and I'm like listening to it. And I'm just like, my body still hurts. And I remember, I think I was talking to him. I'm like, Cameron, there's like Olympians. There's like because the whole point of him calling me is what USA Triathlon and USA Paratriathlon are trying to build up paratriathlon. They want to obviously get other people like we're trying to do here. This never quit, same kind of thing of like looking at it and saying, hey, these injuries don't define me. I can get out there and still do things at a high level. Yeah. Whatever level may be, there are people out there doing it. And so, he hooked me with that in the beginning, but I was like, man, if you're looking to bring people on, there's real athletes out there. Like, I'm not really an athlete. I'm just like a SEAL who does stuff, I'm like, they're like para-Olympians. Yeah. And he's like, yeah, we know that. He's like, well, we don't want them. We want like an average Joe kind of guy that sucks it up and gets through there, I think, and I'm like, all right. I don't think he said average Joe, but I was just like, you could tell he didn't want, there's real quality athletes out there and I'm not one of them. So he's just saying, we want.
This is your apartment.
We want you to, you're in the zone we want, know? So yeah, that's kind of what I've started training for there too. And, shout out to Stout Financial. They're a sponsor, Cameron's company there, and USA Triathlon, they're a nonprofit organization there. They're the ones kind of putting this together, and they got me in there. Then in the Norseman staff, I had to have a call. I had to write a letter because I think it was already like closed down. I mean, this race, they only let 300 people do a year, I guess. And like nowadays, it's like, it's started off as like one of these original Xtreme triathlons, like one of the hardest. So now people like, you're supposed to like score points and get up to it. But with USA Triathlon and Stout, they had a spot. And so I had to write a letter like to the Norsemen saying like why I wanted to do this race. And they accepted me. And so they got me a slot in there. So, now I got linked up with an awesome coach, Ken Axford.
So you train every day again?
I'd love to say I'm training every day. I try to.
What's the weather doing up there?
In Norway?
Yeah, in August.
You know what? I need to look it up more, but I'm just saying.
I don't know.
Well, I don't know because I've obviously like any good guy, I just started Googling Norsemen and like videos, and people post videos that do the race. That's
exactly what I would have done.
Absolutely, you got to do your intel.
That's right.
But I've seen videos during that race where it's like, I think I was saying earlier, like sunny and 75.
Yeah, that's right.
Like these guys, it's beautiful. And then all of a sudden I've seen other videos where like it's like hailing and there's a guy riding a bike and there's snow on the ground. And I'm just like, I don't know. So they just keep me getting, I think I'm afraid.
That was actually the same day.
Yeah. Well, they say that too. I mean, I've read some stuff. Maybe I'm a little bit afraid to find out what the real weather is.
You just gotta get through it.
Right?
Expect that
does it help me? Does it help me to do it? I don't think
Is this gonna help me to know?
Is it gonna help me to know? I just need to, but that's where I was talking to. And I think Hunter over here, hopefully he's kind of rogered up because one of the other.
He's going to be driving the car, giving him water.
Well, one of the parts.
Road crew.
Yeah,
I'll be screaming at you.
Absolutely. One of the parts of the race is there's no support. Like there's no aid stations from like start to finish. There's no people at the table with the Gatorade cups. There's none of that. It's like whoever comes to support you in a car following you to like fix flat tires and keep you hydrated and keep you fed. Like that's what you got. So
should we go, babe?
The weather says it's going to be around 57 to a cool 70 degrees, by the way.
That's beautiful.
That sounds
I'll
pretty
take
nice.
Yeah.
When's this going down?
August 3rd.
That's when it's hot as crap here.
It is hot here.
Yeah. So I mean, I'm excited. I'm nervous about it. Like I said, I've never done a full Ironman like that, like cycling. I mean, I've cycled 115 miles before, but I didn't get right off and run a marathon afterward. You know what I mean? God,
right?
So I'm kind of trying to focus.
So do you know what the flow is?
Yeah, swim, bike, run. That's what it always is.
Swim,
Yeah.
bike, run.
Jumping off the ferry into this fjord at like 5 a.m. into this ice cold water.
What would you rather do? Run, swim, bike?
I'd rather not do anything at all. I'd rather be the support crew. No, I'm just kidding. I'm really excited to do it. That is one thing I have taken to, and I think that's why people are like, oh, you're like, why do you keep doing these things? And it's like, well, I think I owe it to people, like I'm not dead. I'm still alive. I've still got stuff to give. And if I can go out there and suffer a little bit to help motivate people and get them off their butt and, make them better than I am, I think that's our goal here too. It's just, and I think I have a gift doing that. I think I keep a good attitude and,
you always have the best attitude.
Well, again, what choice do you have? It's like, why? I can either choose to be miserable and down, or I can choose to be on it. Now, trust me, these guys know. I don't do it on camera that much, but I like to bitch. I mean, I bitch about everything we're doing.
Well, there's a style to it, though.
Yeah.
There's a difference between complaining and kind of bitching and just then trying to get your point across.
Yeah.
For sure.
But like normal life, like I always tell everybody this when I'm talking about you. I'm like, he's always the happy guy, like goes with the flow with whatever's going on.
That's a good thing, and that helps too. I joke, there's pros and cons, but obviously with I have my company and I work from home, and then my wife has her business too, which she makes confetti. I didn't really realize like there's a confetti industry, but she hand punches confetti.
Makes the best confetti.
Yeah. So then it's like hard. How can you be in a bad mood like when everything around our house is just like sparkly? Like, I got like this is like months ago after she started. I went to put my flip flops on, and like just where your heel and your toes are, just embedded in my flip flops is like sparkles and glitter. And I'm like, dude, this looks. I'm like,
in your hair when you walk, people.
I mean, it's everywhere. Yeah. I mean, even the mailman, because she sends stuff via UPS. Our mailman we love, he's awesome. And there was one day I remember he like picked up the packages, and I opened the door to BS with him, and he had like glitter on his face, and he had just had a brand new baby. And you know what? I was like, hey, bro, just so you know, you have glitter on your face. God forbid you go home. Yeah. At the end of the day,
right.
You walk in and your wife's been at home with the newborn baby and the other kid, and you walk in a few minutes late, and you got glitter on your face. So I was like,
always strip.
So now I'm like, you make sure you know that one of your route has us in there, So yeah, Mindy's company's Bash Boutique, and so it's like it's hard because same thing there. I mean, she just got in this new thing too. We went out for our anniversary in February, and she met this group of people really. They were all nurses and stuff. She told me the name of it. I'm going to mess it up. It's called like the Big Love Cancer Foundation. And they support like kids, pediatric oncology, like when kids finish their treatment and stuff. And so she has all this excess, she punches confetti and then all the excess paper like she's just had. And she's been like shredding it and giving it away for free. But she's like, she's like, can I donate this to you guys, like to give to these kids and their families, like when they do, so they get something. And they were like, oh my gosh, yes. So like now she has her stuff that she sells, but everything that doesn't get used gets kind of recycled into this stuff and gets past this foundation for free, so they can all,
I love that.
Families and kids and everything. So yeah, it's hard to keep a bad attitude when like I'm just it's like
king of the confetti house.
Yeah, right. I was like, I need to get out of here.
That's awesome. Well, how can people follow you in what you've got going on now? Are you posting on socials or?
My wife, I think I gave her my password because I don't know how to, but she will. I'll start training. I wanted to like come on here and make sure I got permission with Norseman and stuff, and I'm gonna get them some interview stuff as well. They've asked me for, but I will start posting. I think I did it last time. My handle is Red Manda 252. Very original. I've just never changed it, but yeah, they can follow me there, I guess. I don't really know how else people do it. I don't.
We'll take care of that part.
This is the Team Never Quit podcast. So buckle up, Buttercup.